All right. Do we have audio? I think we have audio. I'm seeing I'm seeing bars. I'm seeing bars. I think we're good. I think we're good. I don't know what's going on, but my streaming setup here is it's well, yeah, we'll get into it. But hey, welcome. Welcome everybody. It's Flipping Out with Friends. It's our normal Wednesday night stream. And yeah, we're gonna have a good time tonight. We're gonna talk a lot about Stern because we shill. That's what we're doing tonight. But no, we're going to talk a lot about pinball. But yeah, anybody that watched the stream last week realized that the moment I went live, all the audio was gone. And luckily we have it. Now I see Curtis C here is saying very choppy audio. So hopefully that's not a thing. But yeah, I feel like my mixer is on the fritz and it might be time to buy a new one. That's kind of how I feel at this point. But yeah, we had there was going to be four of us. There was going to be four guests. And unfortunately, Josh with Loser Kids had to back out last minute. So unfortunately, it sounds like he has a stomach bug. His son has a stomach bug, so he's not here tonight. But we found a replacement. We found a replacement, and as long as all the technology and everything is working well, we should be good. I was super impressed that this guy was available last minute. He's a busy man, but yeah. So there's four of us tonight. It should be a good time. So here we go. So these are the four people. We're gonna do our normal introductions here. We're gonna work our way around. And just basically, who are you? What do you do in pinball? And then what was the last game of pinball you played? So, Ian, if you want to go ahead and go first, go for it.
Sure. My name is Ian Jacoby. I am the owner and editor of Nudge Magazine, which is a pinball magazine, maybe best described as like a 90s skater magazine, but about pinball instead. And the last game of pinball I played was actually a very frustrating. I scored 500 million on Jaws, but it was like I punted my ball 3 and an extra ball. So
yeah, we've been there.
Feeling bad about that, but that was literally like an hour and a half ago, so it's still fresh in my mind.
Fresh in there. And yeah, so for people that don't know Nudge Magazine, I have it pulled up here on screen. It's nudgepinball.com if you want to see any of the pinballs. Like some of the articles are online, they're on Facebook as well as other places, but you should definitely check out the physical magazine if you haven't bought that or become I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, subscriber. Yeah, you should definitely get in on this. So we're going to be looking at some of this because Ian took some awesome photos when we're at the Stern event. What's great is Ian is using a film camera, so every picture that you see, is it every single picture, Ian, that is in Nudge is film?
Yeah, I mean, there may be like one or two exceptions where someone sent us something and we just had to use, but I think like 99.99% of our stuff is all film, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to see him walking around with this big old film camera and everybody else is recording with their phones or GoPros or whatever they want, which is pretty great.
I do it old fashioned, which is to say like inaccurately and sort of poorly.
No, it's perfect. Yeah. It's perfect. But Ian, thank you so much for being on here. Yeah, so I'm glad you're here. So we'll go around the circle here. Gary, if you want to go next, you're I don't his cameras is he frozen for everybody else? Because Gary hasn't blinked in 5.
He was having Wi-Fi issues.
That's what it was.
Yeah, he did say that.
He was so talkative though before we started the stream.
So talkative.
So I don't know what I don't know, Gary, if you can hear us, I mean, feel free to like reboot or something if you want. We'll just keep it moving. But yeah, Gary was here tonight. I mean, we met Gary. We had a chance to meet Gary at the show, and it was awesome. It was awesome talking to him, and we've really all of us become very close. So I know he was eager to get on Flipping Out with Friends, and I hope he can get his Wi-Fi rebooted. I don't know if he wants to get Stern tech support or something to help him out, but hopefully. Guys, thanks for the super chat there, man. So hopefully Gary, can connect, which was awesome. It was really cool. Josh with Loser Kids was supposed to be on, but yeah, sick kid. He had to pull out last minute, and it was really cool that Gary, I thought he was going to be here. I don't know. We'll see. So Gary, we'll see if Gary chats it up a little bit. But we'll keep going. So Ralph, a new face to the stream. Kind of, I don't mean this in a bad way, but kind of a new face to pinball. I know you are very well known within the arcade 1-up or even the virtual pinball, like kind of arcade YouTube realm. But you're making more and more pinball content these days. And I know Ian and I both had a chance to meet you in person at the Stern event. But yeah, if you want to introduce yourself, Ralph, I really appreciate you being on here today.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thanks for having me. It was good. It was good meeting everybody. I've met Ian before, but I hadn't met you before, Joel. So that was cool because
Yeah.
I've watched you before. So it's cool when you're like, you kind of get into a new hobby and you meet some people that are the prominent figures in the space. But yeah, it was pretty cool. I Retro Ralph on YouTube. My name is Ralph, actually, too. It was funny because I met Arcade Matt. I'm like, your name's Matt, right? He's like, yeah. But no, pinball. It's interesting because do you want me to get into that now?
You're welcome to. Yeah, you're welcome to. Yeah.
Pinball was something that my only real story or recollection about pinball was basically my sister. She went to Syracuse University, and when I was a kid, we took this really miserable van up to see her at school. And in the break room, they had a Terminator 2. And I loved the movie, and that was like my first intro into playing I had played like maybe stuff before that, but that was like my first one. I was like, oh wow, this is really cool. But then I just kind of continued doing arcade stuff and kind of ignored it. Like I didn't think it wasn't cool. I just didn't really think it was something that people like would buy and put in their house or anything like that. So I just kind of, ignored it for a while, got really deep into arcade gaming all the way from like, as far as like doing it at home and things like that, like around the 2000 till now. But as far as like how I got into it in modern times, I went to Pinball Expo the year that Godzilla was the showcase piece, and I filmed a video there, not really thinking that I was there for the pinball piece. I was like, oh cool, I'll go see Galloping Ghost. But I really fell in love with it there. And there's a scene in like the video that I filmed where I'm saying, and I didn't know I didn't even know that I had my mic on, but I said something like, pinball's fun. I'm going to totally buy a pinball machine. And I came home and I bought Jurassic Park. So, and then that's it. From there, it's been like,
then you're hooked.
It's taken up more of my time than like my arcade games are collecting dust, and all I'm playing is really pinball lately. So yeah, that's kind of how it started.
Well, thank you so much, Ryan, for super chat. Yeah, if we pull up Retro Ralph, so this is YouTube channel. So first off, everybody that's watching tonight, if you're not already a subscriber, definitely hit the subscribe button. Give Ralph some love here. But you got some great thumbnails, man. You're crushing the thumbnail game. But obviously a lot of your content is all. A lot of it is arcade specific or arcade focused. But I did see this, destroying my partnership. So you do have like a relationship, or how did you get into or start working with Stern in whatever capacity it is that you work with them?
So actually the funny thing is, the first video I did, the first like official, I'd say like pinball video I did was it was called I Finally Did It, and it was Jurassic Park. And I randomly get an email on November 2nd, 2023. And it's from a marketing company called 47.
Okay.
And they said, hey, we saw your Jurassic Park video. How would you feel making similar content, or with Stern specifically, right? Like, hey, we saw you did it on a Stern machine. Would you be interested in, maybe going? They didn't say the loaner. None of that like existed. It was just like, hey, how do you feel about Stern Pinball? And could you do similar content like this about other games? And if so, like, what games do you like? It was this very like casual kind of conversation at first. And honestly, I thought it was like spam. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to respond to this because that'd be really cool to do something with Stern specifically, because that was really the games I gravitated toward. They were all Stern machines, although I played other manufacturer stuff, but Stern was kind of like what I liked the most. And we went back and forth for a really long time. And I want to say it wasn't till it probably would have been January, I think. It took like a couple of months before anything actually happened with it. And then she connected me with someone in marketing. I'm assuming that person probably reports to Zach Sharp. I don't know, because their title is marketing, so I'm assuming as the CMO. I don't know how the like reporting structure works, but after she like kind of realized I was interested, she like disengaged. Like, I don't deal with 47 anymore. It's literally the marketing person at Stern. But it was funny because she said, well, in order to do this partnership, we got to connect you with a local distributor. And I have a really good relationship with the local distributor here, Game Room Goodies, because I've kind of helped them with like leads selling arcade games and stuff. So I already had that relationship. So I'm like, oh yeah, I have a good relationship already. And then it kind of like went on from there. And they just said, look, this is what the program will be. We'll give you a game. There was really not a whole lot of expectations set other than just, we really like your content, keep it authentic and like however you want to do it. It was not like do a review or do anything. It was just make content on whatever social media platform you prefer. But they definitely were like leaning towards doing it on my YouTube channel because they wanted the subscriber base. But yeah, and they so they loaned me a game. The agreement was we'll loan you one game a month for 4 months.
Nice.
And they're not they kind of don't manage it that well. Like I almost have to like raise my hand and be like, hey, I published some stuff and the game's still here. I'm loving it, but if you want to, I don't really want you to take it, but you I'm thinking maybe you want it back.
Yeah.
So so it's kind of cool.
So when was the first time? When was the first game? Or was you said
the first game was Venom. Venom was the first game.
Okay. So are you on your second game now?
So so I'll tell you the story because it's kind of funny. So they let me borrow Venom, and then I had my Stranger Things, and I really fell in love with Venom. So I traded my Stranger Things for the Venom. so that one I kept.
Oh, so you own Stranger Things?
I own Stranger Things, but then I traded it for the Venom that they loaned me.
Nice. Okay.
Then because I had Stranger Things for a while, so I kind of felt like I was kind of done with it. Like it wasn't one I felt like I had to keep. And then the second game they gave me was Foo Fighters, which I had actually owned Foo Fighters and sold Foo Fighters because I loved the game, the music and everything, but I wanted Godzilla and I don't have that much space.
Okay.
So I got Foo Fighters and then I returned that one. So I made some content on Foo Fighters, and the latest one they gave me was was Bond, and I fell in love with it and I bought it. So this program really benefits Stern because I just keep buying the damn games.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's why Gary likes you so much. And that's why Gary's still frozen, but maybe he'll catch up.
Well, Joel, I just wanted to interrupt quick because I have a very similar story with Stern where I was taking pictures of a Jurassic Park, and then I got this letter from Stern Marketing, and they said, what can we do to get you to stop taking pictures of our machines? And from there, the relationship has really blossomed.
Yeah.
So,
They only went digital. But no, that's Ralph, that's awesome, man. It's interesting. I know a lot of us, Kongs Are Us, I see is in chat, and I also saw Vic is also in chat. So it sounds like this, what is it? 47 something 47?
Yeah, the marketing company was called the one that kind of like created the leads for this was called 47. Yeah, but I haven't had any interactions with. Yeah, but after that though, and I think Kongsman had a slightly different experience, but like after they connected me with Stern and the distributor, I have not talked to them since. Like they just disengaged. They were like,
weird.
So I don't know if like the conversation was like, hey, like Zach said to this firm or someone that works for Zach, hey, go seek out these content creators that are kind of on the edge of like what we normally do.
Does the distributor you work with get any sort of like publicity out of it, or do you think 47 is like working with them from a cost standpoint to help you do this, or what do you think the distributor's getting out of it?
Objection, speculation. Your Honor.
Honestly, so I've plugged the distributor as part of the video, but that wasn't like part of the agreement. I just said to him, I was like, hey, because I'm friends with him. His name's Aaron. I was like, Aaron, I'll plug your stuff too. Obviously because the partnership's really through. But the thing that's weird is so like one of the games was new. The first game, Venom, was new in box, so it was literally unboxed in like outside of my driveway, and then they came in and set it up. The second game, Foo Fighters, was one from their showroom. Okay. So I was trying to figure out, like, not trying to fish too much, but I was trying to figure out if, like, Stern sent them the Venom and then they got to use it for this purpose, or if they said, hey, distributor, you do this, I don't know if it was, like, dictated to them or if Stern, like, ponied up the machine. I really don't know those details. So
I have no idea. This one, it's all new to me. And, hey, huge thanks to John for the super chat. And then I see this Retro Oz Gamer. Thank you. This is Australian money coming in. So sweet. I appreciate it, guys. This is awesome. But no, I mean, obviously this is flipping out with friends. Like Zach and Nicole at Flipping Out are awesome. It's a distributor that I've actually bought games through. And then just because he is local, started up a friendship with Zach. And when I was streaming my own stuff, he let me borrow a game, and then we've just kept it going. So that's really cool that there are distributors out there that are willing to work with content creators, help make content. I'm sorry, Ian. Apparently, they don't want you to photograph the content anymore. But hey, that's
okay.
That's all right. But no, and I see in chat there, Rex says, I'm surprised there is a divide between pinball and traditional arcade channels. I mean, Ralph, maybe you can speak on that. I don't know, at least in the circle of, similar arcade, like Kongs R Us is one of them. Vic is one of them. I know there's a few others that I recognize that I've seen. And I think a lot of it, I don't like when you started your channel, what did you start with? Was it like, I know Arcade 1-Up was like a very popular, like a lot of people got into that. That's how they started the home collector, or it was all about modding Arcade Up machines. What do you think of the arcade based content creators that are out there now?
I mean, there's kind of like multiple factions of, just like there is probably with pinball. You have like pinball and then virtual pinball.
Mhm.
Like there's definitely like there's like branches that go off in different directions. I feel like arcade's the same way, because like when before all this idea of having this title of home arcade, which I always feel like there was something called home. It's whatever you did in your home that was an arcade was home arcade, but now it's like coined a term of like, that's the market, home arcade. And those were products that were specifically designed for your house, not a big, huge, plywood cabinet.
Yeah.
But before all that, you had like people collecting original machines, restoring original machines. And then so that was like one facet of the market. And then so there's that. Then you have the people that were just building their own cabinets and putting like MAME on it. So doing like emulation, non-original hardware. And then you had this new category that 1-Up didn't start. There was a company before them called I can't remember the name of them, but they used to sell them in Target. It had a CRT in it. It was ugly. It was like a throw up of logos, but it was like the first company to do it. They just were unsuccessful in doing so. And so 1-Up was the first one that sort of gained enough attention and traction. And I think they caught it at the good time. Everyone had that market segment of the age group had some disposable income.
Sure.
But how I started the channel, I was into really more MAME stuff from 99 on.
Mm-hmm.
But I was also buying and collecting arcade hardware. So I had a bunch of PCBs that I wasn't doing anything with. They were just on a shelf. And so when 1-Up came out, I've always been a tinkerer. I was like, you know what? I showed a friend that I could take one of these and put a real arcade board in it. And he's like, dude, people would probably like to see a video on that. I had no social media. I did Facebook, but terribly. I didn't do anything. He's the one that encouraged me to start the channel. And so I did it, and it was kind of crazy, because he goes, man, you're getting kind of crazy views on this stuff. And I was like, really? I guess people care about it, because I kind of did everything in a vacuum before that. It was just me and my friends,
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it started. But ultimately, I was hoping that I could take this audience and bring them along with me to do other stuff. I just wasn't sure if it was gonna. So I'd always interject console gaming and some original arcade stuff. And then eventually I was like, why am I spending all this money on these things when I really want to be doing the real stuff anyway? So that's when I just said, I'm just gonna vacate completely from the 1-Up thing and just do straight arcade. And then of course later on that morphed into the pinball when I went to Pinball Expo. Expo, it did me in, man. People even said
that's where you're hooked.
Yeah. We went to some dinner with Todd Tuckey, and there was a bunch of other people there, and every single person at that table, they were hardcore into pinball, and they're like, dude, your arcade collection is going to dwindle and dwindle and dwindle, and it's going to turn into all pinball machines, and it's happening. It's very far along in the process.
So we had another super chat here. Stringer Films, as Ralph fully transforms from Arcade 1-Up and V-Pin, would you guys please help Ralph get good at pinball so his friends can stop letting him win when playing in public? Thanks. I'll hang up and listen. Yeah, everything you're saying.
Really mean.
That is mean.
I had
Can I just say this?
Go ahead.
Quick. Ralph, not a great pinball player, but I will say he beat me head to head for that Stern token at the
Oh,
end of the night. And I'm not bad at John Wick. I
yeah.
had some good games there, so
That's
he can get it done when it matters.
that's awesome. And that's I think basically
Thanks,
your
Ian.
what you've done, Ralph, is I mean, I had a very similar journey. I just didn't have a YouTube channel. And it's you know, I got into I I knew I wanted to build a MAME cabinet and I went all in and I built this awesome MAME cabinet. I got this old golden tea cab. I mean, it was everything. And it was this
Yeah.
MAME cabinet, you know, when you would change games, it was hyperspin. It had a marquee that would change based on what the game was. I mean, all of it. And I spent hours and hours and hours and hours on that thing. And then I realized it was so complex that none of my friends or family knew how to like navigate it to get it, even though it like held your hand. You know, when you have like 10,000 games in a MAME cabinet, nobody knows how to navigate it. And so it's almost like I had my name MAME cabinet. You know what I'm talking about. Like you, yeah.
Joel, dude,
Yeah.
I would have like family over and everything would be fine. It'd be rocking and rolling. I'd be
Yep.
playing some game and they would hit some button
Yep.
combination to like break out to
Like
the
a
desktop.
hotkey
And
or
I'm like,
something. Yeah.
and then you'd start, I don't know if you respond like this. I start getting upset, like,
I
but
know.
it's worked
I
all
know.
of this time.
I know. And it was so annoying. Christopher Franchi's here. What gives? I thought there was a pull. No, Franchi's here. What's up? But no, I loved that MAME cabinet, but I realized I almost needed another cabinet that was easier. And so I bought a Neo Geo cab, like a legit Neo Geo cab, 4-slot. I was like 4-slot, 4 games. Like they can handle that. And I love that cabinet. I fixed it all up. But then once you introduce a CRT into your life, you realize you're going to be battling CRTs the whole time you have it. I mean, I know Ian likes that film. You probably watch television, Ian, on a CRT. Like I'm guessing you're watching Netflix.
Let's chill out.
You're watching Netflix on 4x3. You know, yeah. No,
I don't watch Netflix. It's just straight VHS tapes that I find in people's garbages. So
There we go.
it's like a lot of Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen stuff from the 90s. So,
but yeah, I did that, and then I ended up getting a Dynamo cabinet. I know Ralph, you have one. Dynamo.
Yeah,
What is it? NV5 or something?
HS5.
HS5. Yeah. And I love that cabinet, and that's when I got into the world of a retro Pi and started going down that route. And then next thing I know, I had enough stuff that I needed like a dedicated spot, and that's where I was like, you know what, I need a pinball machine, and that's where it all started. It's
So what was the first one, Joel?
The first pinball machine I technically bought was a Data East Secret Service, but it was completely dead. Like it looked like the thing had fallen off a truck. Like it was hardware.
That's a good game though.
Everything.
That's a great game.
Yes. And that game, I bought it for $300 and I started getting parts and trying to fix it up. And you realize very quickly, pinball is not particularly fun when you can't play the game. So I was putting, months after months putting time into it and still had yet to flip a flipper. I mean, it was just, but I was just working on it. And then in next door, there was an Stern Avatar that went up for sale for $2,500. And which was at the time I was like, this is big money. This is big money, but this is even if I just buy it and play it, I could probably flip it for, $500 to $1,000. But once I got that, that was it. Once I got a real working pinball machine, as crappy. And sorry, Gary, I know you're listening. I know you made Avatar, and you're probably proud of it. But as soon that was not a game I enjoyed, but it was real freaking pinball. And Pinball Eddie, same journey, hyperspin, too complicated for non-arcaders. So I got the Mega Touch, then pinballs took over. Yep. And people are recommending John's Arcade. I know he's not really active anymore. Check out John's Arcade on YouTube. But pinball, once you get in it, man, once you get one pinball machine in your house, there's nothing like it. There's nothing, a PS5, a Nintendo Switch, nothing can compare with the gaming experience. Torpedo Alley, right? That's what you got, Ian? That's what you have? Oh, he's turning it. There it is. There it is. There we go. Once you get one, man. Baby. Once you get one, it's
well, I actually had two and went down to one, so I hate to mess with that theory, but I did have the Shadow for a couple glorious months. But
oof, that's a great game.
It is a great game. It's my all-time favorite. So
it's really good.
I'll get it back someday for sure.
Yeah, and I see Jobber in chat. Hyperspin is worthless. Do Launchbox big, but I know Launchbox, like that came out right after I kind of got out of. I ended up selling my main cab, just because you only have so much space. You only have so much
Yeah,
space.
man.
And
Yeah.
Vic did point out I do have a Chulix cabinet. That's my one arcade cabinet that I keep, and that just runs a Pandora box because it's just, even though it doesn't have everything, and it's easy enough that anybody that sits in front of it can figure out how to navigate to another game,
Yeah.
which is awesome. But Ian, do you have any arcade background or just went straight to pinball?
No, gross. No, I'm just kidding.
That's awesome.
I'm just a dirtball pinball guy. So that's where I'm at. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. But I've actually, Ralph, I'm glad you're on, because I have had people email me, and they've emailed Triple Drain as well, and others that are just like, hey, there's this arcade community on YouTube that's starting to get the pinball bug, and they're bringing people in to this hobby, and like, you should basically talk to them. You should reach out to them, and it's awesome to see that is growing, and then to see Stern working with a marketing firm that's also realizing that, to catch those eyes and views and subs. And I mean, we had a guy there, Arcade Matt. I'd never heard of the guy, never met the guy. I can pull up he was at this Stern event as well. Did either of you guys know this guy, Arcade Matt, before?
No, I only knew him a little bit through Hup Challenge, and then our friend Lewis Bevins, who I don't know if you know, he's a great tournament player, but he's also written for Nudge, and they're all from Pittsburgh, so I think he's a Pittsburgh content creator.
Yeah.
But no, I was not familiar with his work.
So this guy's sitting next to me on the bus as we go to Logan Arcade, and I was like, I don't know you. You know, what's your name? He's like, I'm Matt. I run the Arcade Matt YouTube channel. And I pull up my phone and pull it up. 1.8 million subscribers.
Yeah, bro.
That's one of those like, wait, what is going on? And this guy, he does this for a living, and he says he films. He'll go into an arcade maybe once or twice a week, and he tries to film 2-3 videos worth of content. But he's done like all the arcades in his area, so he's having to travel further. And he realizes like he gets more views when he gets a secondary person to film, so somebody to follow him around while he's at the arcade. So he's got to pay somebody to do that. He has his own editor. Like he basically just films everything, uploads it all, and the editor pulls it and edits all his videos. I mean, this guy's grinding, man. He's grinding and putting out. He tries to put out like 2 videos a week.
And he was a really sweet guy.
Such
too.
a nice guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a really nice guy.
Yeah.
I met him like at the breakfast. So like where Stern like let us all stay at this hotel that was across the street from Stern, the Stern offices. And in the morning, I thought it was complimentary breakfast too. So I was getting down there, and then I saw Arcade Matt, and he's like sitting there with like a plate of eggs, looking real sad. And I went over to the breakfast buffet. He's like, dude, $16. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to Starbucks. But I hung out with him, just sitting there while he's eating his eggs for like a half hour. And yeah, really, really cool dude. And like pretty crazy YouTube channel for sure.
Yeah. I mean, some of these videos have, 12 million views, 11 million views, 7 million views. But that's what the guy's did. He was super nice to talk to. So it was, I mean, maybe we can get into it, but it's like this Stern event, honestly, I had no idea what we were walking into. I didn't know how many people were going to be there. Unfortunately, so Triple Drain, our last Triple Drain episode, Travis kind of went on a little rant. He tried to went on a little rant about some of the stuff that he's struggling with pinball and marketing and distribution and everything. And then Tom, one of our other co-hosts, on his own YouTube channel, Fox Cities, he kind of went on a little rant about how he's out being an LE buyer, or the issues he's having with John Wick and an LE, and so here we are thinking like we're putting out a little bit of content that may be rubbing people the wrong. I know Gary, we were worried, but Gary's still here with a big smiling face, and maybe he's froze, but we didn't know. And then we got an email. We got an email from Zach Sharp. And it just said, like, hey, I've been wanting to do this for a while, but I finally have the opportunity that we're inviting some people in to spend a whole day at Stern. Are you available? It was on a Thursday. It was like, are you available in 2 weeks? It was
It
like
was very, very quick timeline.
it was
Like, I don't know if
yeah.
you guys had to scramble your schedules, but I had to figure out like how am I going to make this work?
Yep.
You know, because
I
of course you want to jump on that opportunity. I was like really excited. I'm like, man, how am I going to make this work?
yeah. And I mean, that's one of those I mean, there's somebody in chat says shills keep shilling. I mean, I get it that, if you, but I'm sorry, if the biggest pinball manufacturer in the world reaches out to you and says, I want to pay to have you come here and hang out with us, like, I'm gonna do that. I would be like,
It-
why would,
Dude, really, like if back in the day when I was like in the arcade playing Street Fighter, if Capcom was like,
Yeah.
"Hey, we want you to come tour our facility," I'd be like, "What?" I would be an instant yes. Like, of course, I don't even know if people would have used the term "shill" at that point.
I
but,
know. Yeah.
Um,
Ian, I mean, Ian, you're usually bought pretty, I mean, yeah. So
Easily, we've said that since day one. We're like, we're just
Yeah.
waiting. I mean,
Yeah.
who wants in, baby?
Yeah,
of
who
course.
wants in? Stringer Phils, is anybody confirmed with Ralph? Pants or shorts? I'm shorts.
I'm wearing
Really?
pants. I'm
Pants?
wearing pants right now.
I have pants on.
Okay, good.
All right, good. Yeah.
He
Nice.
only says that because he says I don't wear
Yeah.
shorts. Like I've never worn shorts in my whole life, but I do wear shorts.
I did.
Yeah.
I did see that we had Zach Many in chat, and I wanted to actually shout out because he was like wishing that he had an editor, but it's like, dude, their stuff looks amazing. Like that was actually, so for me getting into YouTube channels, I think Straight Down the Middle was the one for me that I was like, not only was it great because it was really informative on the pinball content, but like those guys are obviously like friends. Like it's such a good vibe between them, like I listen to the pinball show like with Dennis too, but I always love when they have those Greg Bone episodes because it's just such a funny vibe between those guys. So
Yeah. It was really, it was cool. I mean, it was just one of those emails, but then I remember we got the email and if the first thing you think of is like, well, who else got this? And I knew, like I said, I know a lot of the other content creators in pinball, but I didn't want to be that guy. I didn't want to be the guy to be like, hey, did you get this? And then they're like, no.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want to be the guy to deliver the wrong news or this, like, to be that person. So it was kind of we kind of heard some rumblings, and then unfortunately, it bummed me out that obviously not everybody could be invited, and obviously there were people that were bummed that they weren't invited, and I totally understand. I get that, but yeah, like Ralph, I had no idea. I had no idea he was invited until like 48 hours before. I was like, oh, cool, okay, that's awesome. And Hup Challenge, when I got there, I had no idea. They're part of TPN. No idea that they were going to be there. So it was neat. It was neat seeing everybody, but it was a surprise to, I think, all of us. And a lot of people, I see Dennis is in chat here with Eclectic Gamers. He keeps calling it the Stern Damage Control Tour. I asked Zach Sharp, I said, whose idea was this? And where did this come around? And at least what Zach said is he said this was an idea that he had pre-COVID, but it was just one thing after another of, maybe there wasn't a budget for it, or then COVID obviously happened. And then I think it was supposed to happen with Jaws, but then they're like, you know what, let's wait until the new facility happens. Then it was supposed to happen with Venom. But the main kind of arcade area they had us in, they finished decorating it. They told us the night before, like that little bar kind of table thing. They said they like put it in the day prior. So
wow.
It was kind of a scramble. And so this bar right here, take this beautiful photo taken by taken by Ian.
Who's that good looking guy there? And then
that's Dwight Sullivan. Yeah, Dwight Sullivan there. Yeah.
That room, by the way, and I'm sure we'll talk about it as we go on, but that room is like what I'd want my arcade room to look like.
Oh,
like that was
it was
so
an awesome
cool.
room.
Yeah,
I don't.
Sure.
Ian only had so much film, so he didn't take too many photos.
No, I did, but you're in the section actually that is just the many moods of Dwight Sullivan. So those are 4 pictures in a row. I love Dwight doing
You
weird
got the
things.
microwave
Yeah, there's the microwave wall.
Yeah, we'll go through some of this. But one thing I do want to note behind here, here's all Twippy awards. So these plaques are all the runner-up awards, and then the big ones are the Trippy awards. But right here, all those crystals, those are the pinball awards or the pinball industry awards formally.
Nice.
So they have everything on display, which is really, really cool. but yeah, we got the invite. I know I drove up. Ian, I think you drove. Ralph, you obviously flew.
Well,
What?
actually, the funny thing is, Zach was like, oh hey, I know, he was like, we can figure out the flights and stuff. And I ended up having to be in Chicago for work because I cover the central US for work. So I was like, hey, actually already going to be there. And then I had to
Oh,
kind of,
nice.
but I was supposed to be coming home. So my wife is so understanding of all the hobby and like the conferences I go to and all that stuff. And she's like, well, why don't you just stay out there? There's no point flying home for a day and flying back. So they actually didn't have to
Oh,
really
nice.
pay much for me to be there other than the hotel room. But
Yeah, and that was what's yeah, so it's just we all
I was
got
cheap.
there. Yeah, we all got there. We got there at, I know Jeff Teolis with Pinball Profile. He flew from Canada. So there was some that were not cheap. There were others that were. But yeah, we all got there. We all got there at 1. And then what was real apparent to me very quickly was everybody from Stern was there. Like everybody. All the designers were there. A lot of the designers work from home. Dwight Sullivan in right here in that picture that I saw pulled up. A lot of these designers work from home. That's Elliot Eisman behind him. All the designers that worked from home, they were all there. It was everybody. All the designers, all the art people, some of the sound people were there. There was Seth Davis was there. Obviously, Gary, thanks for being here again tonight. He was there. George Gomez. And they made it very clear, the point of the day was just to see Stern and just talk to people, play games. That was it. I mean, there was no commitment from any of us. They didn't say, hey, we're hoping each one of you makes a video or each one of you records a podcast with us there was none of that. I think I took like 3 pictures on my phone. That was all the content that I took.
Yeah, you guys are definitely taking it easy. That's for sure. I was
Yeah.
like, is anyone creating content here? Just me?
Yeah,
But,
you, Arcade Matt. There was people.
No, for sure.
Did
Actually, if you guys want to see that room, there are like, if you scroll down a little bit further, Joel, there are several pictures in there just of like a pretty cool demo that we got to do, right, with Tim Sexton and Elliot.
Cool.
So that was cool.
Yeah. So here's our actual.
I was surprised by one thing, like. And I guess I shouldn't have been surprised because this loaner program, they didn't have me sign anything. Like we didn't sign anything. So, I mean, they were really trusting us with, especially some of the things that I'm sure we'll get to it. Like there were things that were told to us that they put their trust in us that, hey, we're not going to be, jerks and go share things that were shared in confidence, which none of that stuff was stuff that's like all earth shattering, but it was like, hey, we want to tell you some stories but we trust that you wouldn't share these outside the walls because it could put like licensing agreements at risk. So I thought that was really cool.
It was. And I see, Kirk Hobbs, he sounds like a bit of a Stern suck up. And that's the thing. I realized, like, honestly, just to cut to it, like, I had a great time. I had a a really enjoyable, fun time. So if I walk away thinking like, dang, Stern's pretty cool. I mean, that's obviously the goal, but but there was no I don't know. There was literally no formal commitment of any kind. And if any of us wanted to come away from that and be annoyed or pissed or think Stern's dropping the ball on X, Y, and Z, we could leave that and bash them all day long if we want. So if the goal of it was like, hey, let's bring some eyeballs in here, with people that make content so they can see what our facility looks like, what all the staffing looks like, then come check it out. And we did.
It was that, Joel, but it was also, I think there needed to be a little bit of a reconciliation between pinball media and Stern, and they recognized that. I think that there was, like you said, like you guys y'all are like the most positive people. I always hear that too with Tom. Everyone's like, wow, Tom's video. It's like he's still such a nice, calm man,
Where is he? He's in some of these pictures. Sorry, keep going.
Oh, definitely. But just I think that probably there hasn't been a ton of trust between the
Hot Nudge was there. They're local Chicago streamers. Yep.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, so I just think that this was also important. Like, dude, like we wouldn't all 3 be sitting here if not for that event, and that's cool. Like Stern invested enough that it was like it built our community up a little bit. Like I definitely feel It's not like we're like all best friends now or something, but it does feel a little bit more like a pinball media, you know?
You just
So
told me yesterday that we are best friends, so this is
I
hurtful
never
right now.
I never said that. Brian Moen is my best friend. I'm on record. And there's nothing you can say right now that will change that. So.
Pinmonk's in chat. No, I did not bring the microphone, and I did not have to go on any rants. I mean, well, what I will say is, we are, we're going to talk a little bit about Wick, and honestly, there's things about Wick I enjoy, and there are things about Wick that I don't enjoy. So we're gonna get into that. It's not all just gonna be how great Stern is, but I will just. We don't have to go into excruciating detail on all the stuff they showed us, but maybe just really kind of the first thing they did was they gave us the tour. They gave us the tour of the whole facility, and maybe Ian, if you want to go first. So just real like, what was your main takeaway after walking through that whole facility? What was your main kind of thought or takeaway about what you saw there?
Well, it was truly overwhelming to see how big it was, but I think what I came away with was the fact that, I mean, I'm kind of an idiot with this stuff. So it's like when you see things are still handmade, like these cabinets are being assembled by hand, and it's like mechanisms that are supposed to work 100% of the time. That is wild to me. Walking away from that was really cool, and just seeing kind of like you made mention of the fact, but we were taking this tour with the Stern employees, and like, so it was like, you know, Jack Danger kind of like chiming in with a story about whatever, like that. It was just a sort of, I don't know, it was a really cool experience for sure. I would just like, I wish I had a better way to describe it, but honestly, if y'all just read that article, I like barfed out 3,000 words on it. So
yeah, you had a really good, I forget what I'll have to find it, but yeah, Ralph, I mean, same thing. What was your thoughts after you walked all the way around it and we got back to the main room, just kind of taking it all in? What were your thoughts?
Well, for me, I've worked in technology my whole career, so that I think I see, like, that's what I see immediately. I'm like looking at, well, how do they assemble these things, and like, what are the checks and balances that they do to make sure that, because now that I've owned a couple of these things over time, it's like, what do they do to pump out games this fast, but make sure that the end result is something of quality? So like, I was really like obsessed about, wow, like this wire harness isn't leaving this area until it works. Like it's not leaving, because they're like, we do not want to have cabling issues when we're 5 steps ahead of this process. So like, I appreciated all that stuff. And I think when you just buy these things, or you're just like a casual fan of them, I think it's easy to like say something super negative about any of the companies probably. But when you see like the hard work and effort that goes into, like, they even said it. They're like, look, we make mistakes. Like, stuff does get messed up sometimes. They had remember that whole time where they talked about, well, if a ramp is bent and it's not working, like, what do we do with it? Like, they were like, we have a couple options. We can try to fix it, but some cases we can't. So they were like very transparent about like, look, we don't get it right all the time. I mean, I've had issues with my Stern machine, but I think with any product you buy, it's how they like how they handle the problem is like how you're going to feel about the company in general. But I think I was just overwhelmed by how large the process was, and like, wow, this company is huge. Like, you know them as the biggest pinball company, or the biggest pinball manufacturer, but after that, I was like, wow, this is like very well put together. And the fact that, I mean, you saw there were definitely like the organization, I mean, everything about it was so professional. But then again, I don't have anything to compare it to. I've never toured like Barrels of Fun, which I would imagine would be very, very different.
What is cool, Barrels of Fun has done they did like a YouTube walkthrough video. I've seen Barrels of Fun.
Watched it yet.
Yeah, I've seen Barrels of Fun do a virtual tour of their thing. I've seen Jersey Jack. Jersey Jack has done tours before. I've watched those on YouTube. I've seen Spooky. You know, they all have very similar components. But it was very clear to me after I actually saw the Stern tour when I was at Expo. But then to see this, it just was much more in depth, and we went deeper. But before we go any further, I would love for you to read this out loud, because these are your words. So I've highlighted it in blue here. This is easily the best part of this article. But I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah, if you want to read
Yeah,
that for us, that would be great.
I'll try to. Yeah, okay. I said, but one thing we had in common, and this is the we, like all the media people that got asked. But one thing we had in common was that we kept an open dialogue with Stern and that they felt safe enough to trust us with some trade secrets. Does that make us shills? I don't know, man. And to be honest, I really don't give a F if you think I'm a shill. I love to play pinball. If that makes me too commercial for you, then I must be a great ensemble movie about midlife crisis starring William Hurt because you can call me the big shill.
Yes, thank you for that. Thank you for that, Ian. But yeah,
You're welcome.
Yeah, man, I just really, my big takeaway was it's just so massive. You know, I've seen a lot of these tours,
Yeah.
Spooky, Barrels of Fun, Jersey Jack, and it's just like everything that they do, all of those companies are making pinball machines, but Stern, they show their parts department and it is like, 3 stories high, like thousands and
Would
thousands
you not be
of parts.
terrified being the guy that's like, hey, I need that part that's on the top. It's
yes.
like what the hell,
Unbelievable.
man?
I mean, so we walk around the wiring harnesses. They all do that there. They test that there. Then there was the shipping, the inbound shipping, and they are constantly getting parts in. They're constantly getting parts in, and then they have a QC parts like inbound department of open up the box, see what it is, check the quality, and then some of it is either going straight to the line or it goes to their storage, and it's just this massive storage about how it's very clear how constantly they can just rotate games, so they have so many parts stored up. But then they showed the line and starting with the playfield and having to use that machine to dimple it and then put all this stuff on the back of the playfield and flip it over. But they weren't perfect. I felt bad. We got all the way down on one row, maybe there's a picture of it, and one of the guys on the rotisserie turned the pinball machine over. I don't know, did you guys see it? But the clamps were off. He literally turned the playfield over and the whole playfield fell to the ground. And it was just one of those.
How the heck did we miss that?
Some of us didn't, but it like knocked over a thing, and they just kind of quickly walked over and like picked it up, and you could tell the guy was really bummed because they must have some sort of QC metric of like how many rejected whatever, because they do go past that and then they go into a cabinet and they test. So if there's something that gets to that point and it fails, they got to go back to back somewhere earlier to get it working. But I did feel bad for that guy when that fell off. I was like,
oh man,
this is probably the worst time that could have happened today, but it happens. It happened, but they picked it up. I mean, it was and rolled with it, but I don't know. I can scroll through some of these, but, there was a ton of LEs built. They haven't shipped. They've only shipped a handful of them. And the reason they haven't shipped them all is because of the back glass. The back glass they said they were waiting on back glasses, there is a picture in here of, there was a handful of machines that had that huge fan, man.
That's pretty crazy.
All the design, but you see, I mean, this is just like rows and rows and rows of LEs, and this isn't even at their main manufacturer part of like where the final testing is. You could tell they're just storing these LEs in other areas. And it's
so Joel, you think that's what it is?
That's what I heard.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was wondering
backlash.
why, like, when we got out of the main area, why there were games in places that didn't seem like there should be. Like
that's what it was. They were all.
They were like staged.
So they were all final tested. They just needed that final assembly part. Gary, if I don't know if you can hear it, just blink. Am I right? I mean, I'm pretty certain, Gary, that's what you said. It was just the back glass that they were waiting on. But it only takes one part. It takes one part. If you're missing one part, you can't ship the game. And so, yeah, they were all over the place. But yeah, we had a chance to go into the arcade. We played a bunch of John Wick. We played some of the other Stern games around there as well. LEs were delayed. What did Zach say? A hair, but should be shipping early next week. See, I'm telling they were able to make premiums. There's some premiums that are already shipped.
They had that stamp good to go there. See, Rachel,
was
everyone was stamping those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was just in the time that it took us to probably walk. If they would have done their normal thing, the time for us to walk that facility, they probably could have boxed up, 5 games. I mean, it's just that it's a well-oiled machine. It's a well-oiled machine for sure. Premiums got bumped because of the part delay of the LEs. Yes, and if you want a premium, Zach at Flipping Out, bing, bing, has them in stock. Bye, bye, bye. So you can call him up right now. You could have that thing shipped to your house heading out tomorrow. So definitely check it out. So it was really cool. Just the overall tour. I'm saying it right. The tour was really cool. Travis Murray says tour. It was really cool. Tom Fox Cities Pinball. He says, Joel, I'm not getting an LE. I think that's a lie. We walked around, and honestly, the printed decals on the side of that game, the way
Dude,
the
it's
foil,
so pretty.
it's really, really good looking.
In my video, I haven't published it yet, but the video, I was like kind of doing it last night, and I couldn't help myself. Like, it is hard unless you see it. It is one of those things where I'm sure it sounds, if you're like on the other side of this, you're probably like, oh my gosh, these guys are gushing over it.
We are.
But it just looks so freaking awesome, though. It looks so good.
Yeah, you can kind of see it here, but every single one of these, the wicks on the candles is metallic, and like as you're moving in the background,
it flickers.
It's really impressive, actually. Like, it's one of those, like, and Tom Fox City's here. He's very clear. He's like, I'm out on LEs. I'm not going to buy LEs. And then I was standing next to Tom when he saw it. He's like, oh man, that's it's one of those,
in
like,
his video, he seemed like he would buy it too. Like, I watched his latest video on it, or one of his videos on it. It seemed like he wanted to buy it. So.
It looks really freaking good, man. All these candles, all the windows in the back, very reflective. It's a good looking game. It's a good looking game.
Are the LEs the only ones with the lit speaker panels as well?
Yeah, so they talked about that when I interviewed Gomez, that by default the LEs come with the expression lights and the speaker lights, but the expression lights you can kind of see right there. I actually have expression lights in this Pro, and that's because that's because they don't
like come from a Rush or something.
It came from a Led Zeppelin.
Led Zeppelin. There it was.
Yeah, Zach had a few Led Zeppelin expression lights in stock, so he actually shipped me one. He's like, let's see if it works, and sure enough, it does. So the expression lights will work in the Pros, the Premiums, and the LEs, obviously, and then the speaker lights apparently will also be available for the Pros, Premiums, and LEs.
That's
so
cool.
It is really cool.
That.
And
that's
what I'm very curious of, just thinking backwards, Jaws. If you go to Stern's website and you download the code, there is code for Pro, Premium, and LE. But the reality is, the code for the Premium and LE are the exact. It's the same code. It's the same file.
Word. Yeah.
It's the same file. Yeah. So because of that, I'm pretty confident that if you can buy the speaker lights for this, you should be able to put it into a Premium Jaws and also get the speaker lights on your Premium Jaws. That's what I'm hoping for, because the more lights that are in there, and it does, I'm getting the vibe, just because the way they talked about the cabinets was all the cabinets are the exact same. So it was a big deal when Munsters needed 2 buttons, because now all of a sudden their cabinet's not the same. And now, right now, it's like they have normal cabinets, and then they have cabinets with expression lights. So I think they're thinking ahead, and they're saying they're thinking like, you know what, let's just make expression lights standard from now on, because that way they could get away with one cabinet. So I'm getting the vibe that the fact that John Wick expression lights worked on all 3 models, I wouldn't be surprised if that becomes a standard moving forward. Just once again, because that's less.
Like, you mean
cabinets.
A standard that you can upgrade into it from any model, right? Not that it'll come with
so like
it.
Foo Fighters, the Pro couldn't get expression lights.
Yeah,
it was a base cabinet. So I'm hoping that becomes just a constant thing. Don's Pinball Pond. Don was here. Yeah, Don was there. Godzilla 70th will have, dude. I mean, that would be awesome. I doubt that, but that would be pretty cool.
It makes sense to do that as a modular thing. Yeah. I mean, people want that, and I think lights are they're the most inexpensive way to add so much experience to your 100%. Pinball machine. So
well, you can. I mean, I've streamed Wick twice, and if you want to watch my first stream, I had no expression lights, and you want to watch the second stream, I do, and I think you'll see a very drastic difference in just the overall vibe. And they made it very clear that the expression lights, there's not a ton of animation in the game right now, and they have a lot of plans of what to do with the expression lights. Tim actually with Wick, he talked about one of the things that they're doing. It's already in the current beta code. With the speaker lights. Do you remember, Ian? I know you were standing next to me. Ralph, do you know what I'm talking about? Did he talk to you about what he coded in with the speaker lights?
Yeah, and I'm so bummed because you were kind of talking about, going around and filming and stuff.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to be in the moment. Like, this was a cool experience for all of us. And so I didn't want to be the guy like with my camera everywhere.
Yeah.
And he was demoing that. And I was just kind of mesmerized by it. Like, it was cool because I wasn't thinking, oh my gosh, I need to film this. I was like, holy shit, that's cool.
Yeah.
When he showed that was really neat. Like,
So-
the whole idea of the lights being like a muzzle flash with that was really cool.
Yep. He will do basically what Tim was talking about was right now in Wick, when you hit an enemy light, it will show on the display an animation or a video of you killing the enemy. So what they have done, they've only coded it into one area of the game, which is John Wick's house. But that particular fight scene, it's dark. It's dark in the house. And he's walking around with a silenced pistol. So there's a lot of muzzle flash. So what Tim coded in is when it shows that video of him shooting the guys, every time the muzzle flashes in the video, the speaker lights flash white and the shaker motor goes off. So it like really, while you're playing the game, which unfortunately, you're not really staring at the screen while you're doing it, but I know Ian was like standing right next to it, and like when you're looking at the screen,
crazy.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Just poof, 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 and just
it was
poof, poof, the lights.
It was
true,
haptic feedback. Like when you talk about that with like PlayStation controllers or something, this was like to the nth degree. I love this kind of stuff in pinball, like the sort of immersive things that you can do, and that was so. Joel, you asked a really interesting question in that part, and I didn't understand why you were asking it, but you said
okay,
but you were like, this is coded, the flashes are coded to the video.
Yes,
that's what you said. So how is that like, what are you talking about there?
What I meant was like a shaker motor. Like normally, to me, I love the shaker motor because normally it's telling me I hit a shot. So, if you're looking out at the flippers or in the middle of the play field and all of a sudden the game goes off, it's like, oh, I just hit the jackpot or I just hit, so it's almost telling me I just hit something. I'm trying to think of, if you're destroying something or hitting something, or even TNA, if you rip the spinner and super spinner, or every single time you hit the pop bumper, it's like the shaker motor is almost always responding to something physical that's happened in the game. So sure, you hit the enemies, but the shaker motor didn't happen the moment you hit the shot. The shaker motor is going off to the display, to the graphics, to the film clip. So it's this different type, a completely different type of immersion, which still at the same time, instead of you feeling like I hit the ramp, so I got 3 enemies, instead of the shaker going off right then, it's like it's going to be a second or two. But then when you feel the shaker go off 3 times, you're like, oh, that was 3 enemies, like.
Oh, totally. Although that is interesting that you're sort of losing that element of like game, like, that's a metric for you that you're judging like your success by. That is now like you're gonna have to adjust that expectation.
Well,
that's interesting.
It'll be something I'll have to experience. I'll have to feel. But it's different. It's just it's something that they're trying. Because I actually had a really interesting conversation with some people outside of well, I had a conversation and we've been having a chat about just video, like how important is video in pinball. And obviously with Wick, they're saying like they've got all 4 films. It's a lot. They have a lot of video in this 4K res video in this game. But I don't know about you guys. When I'm playing pinball, I'm almost never looking at the video. So
never.
Yeah.
I mean,
same.
yeah.
So to me, it's like I don't care. Like if you have the video, like that's cool. But I also don't like the video's more there for everybody else. And obviously that moment where the speakers are flashing or whatever. That's a cool thing for others to watch, but I've never really cared about that video. So I think this is an interesting way that they're bringing like a tactile thing into the video clips. And I see Zach there straight down the middle. Be quiet, Joel. Video is everything to me. He's saying video is more important than callouts. I completely disagree.
I don't know about that. I think well-placed video. So somewhere that video works really well for me and is integrated with lights and everything is like the mini wizard mode for Mando when you complete all the missions. And it's sort of that 3-tiered, you know what I'm talking about, Joel?
Yeah.
And sort of how once you get through the first two, and then all of a sudden, right before it's going to do the multi-ball, it shows on screen all the other bounty hunters things like flashing all at the same time, and like the lights start all flashing, and you're kind of like, it hypes me up. Like I get to that and it happens, like, and the video is actually part of that, like in that moment, but it's few and far between where the ball is like paused like that and you kind of are allowed to have that moment. But when they're effective, they're like really effective. So.
I will agree. The moments where like ball save, or you're about to start a mode, or you complete a mode, or you do something, those pinball moments, I think absolutely having a good animation or a good video, when you're taking a breath to look at the screen, make it worthwhile. Yeah. But when you're in the middle of a multi-ball, like I can't tell you when I'm in Godzilla, the building multi-ball, I have no idea what's actually on the screen at that point. I'm watching. I'm doing everything I can to keep 3 balls alive. I'm not looking at the screen. Like it's only when you trap up, right?
Yeah. I think for like a game, like a moment in a game where there's a pause, like when the building is coming down in Godzilla, like that's a moment of pause because you're not doing anything. So I am looking at the screen there, and it does hype you up because you hear Blue Oyster Cult starts playing.
Oh yeah.
But Wick doesn't have that. It's freaking fast and crazy the whole time. Like if you're looking at the screen at Wick, then you are a pinball wizard, because like you just don't have time to look at it.
You don't.
There's no like dead moments in that game, really.
Yeah.
No.
At least not when I'm playing.
Jason said, even if there's a ball stop, I'm worried that the game will throw the ball at me and I'm not ready for it. So I just roll down. Yeah. It's hard to have the confidence to look up during. Yeah. What, you were saying something, Ian?
No, it's all good.
Well, Don brings up something. Don in the chat's like, it does not have that yet. Like, I don't know, maybe they will code in some moments like that where it calms down for a minute.
Well, let's just if you just look at the layout, let me pull up a picture of the layout here. There's not a ton on this game that gives you a chance to breathe. And that's what I think, it actually fits the theme incredibly well because of that. There's not
There's a little bit more in the premium to slow it down a bit.
You have a scoop here and you have a vuck here. That's it. Like everything else, that ball, maybe if the ball is stopped back here,
the drop target.
Yeah, behind the drop target. But otherwise, there's nothing to pause that. There's very little pause in this game. And the game's supposed to be fast-paced. It's supposed to be fast-paced.
Do you guys feel like that circle club thing is really cool? Like, I love that idea of the pop bumper and the slingshot in there. I kind of wish, though, like maybe they could increase the strength of the slingshot. Like, I wish it hung out in there a little bit longer, because it's cool when it's in there, but it's not in there for very long.
It spits out. And this is why I love doing triple drain, because Tom, my lovely co-host there, just says it's called trapping up, Joel. It's basically play better. Play better is if you want to experience more of the video, the way this is laid out, some of these the little targets next to these ramps, if you hit that and you're confident, if you think you drilled that ramp and you didn't, and you hit this thing instead, that ball's coming so fast back at you.
Yeah.
It's rough. Franchi is getting kind of Shillville. I get it. I know. What we're saying, Chris, is this is one of my complaints with, this is actually a negative. Sorry, Gary. I know you're here. I know you're listening, but this is one of my only complaints with Wick right now is I love the speed. It is a super fast game, which fits the theme, but also like the LCD screen right now is doing nothing for me. One, because there's no information. You look up, if you're trying to look up to see what do I need to hit right now? Where am I at with this? What am I like? There's nothing. There's almost no information for those half a seconds you have to look up. There's nothing really there.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And actually, so I have a similar problem with Jaws in general, is that it's so hard to see what my score is, because I'm being like sort of overwhelmed with like a million, you know, if you combo 3 and 4 times in a row, you can sometimes get 3 or 4 video clips where it's just like, I'm trapped up and still waiting, you know, for those to clear through it. And Wick is very, right now, that feels similar. I still don't really understand I know people have called it watermelon seed screen.
Oh,
Like
you actually have a picture of it. I can find it.
The funny thing is, I only noticed that like when you were playing, Ian, it gave me a chance to actually look at the back, like the LCD a little bit. I didn't even notice while I was playing that like the little meter for your wick, is it wick points or whatever? Like I didn't even notice there's that little meter like there is on Venom to like tell you when you're gaining more wick points or your level goes up or whatever it is. Because when you're playing, you just don't have the time to look at it.
Yeah.
And to just like kind of address the like Shillville thing, the problem with this is like I do like this game. Like it's gonna be hard for me not to kind of sound like a shill because I had a lot of fun playing it. I think it's a good shooter. It reminds me a lot of The Shadow, which is my favorite game. It reminds me of like Game of Thrones, some of those shots that come back really fast and brutal, you know, when you miss them. Yeah,
I would say yes, and honestly, I mean the negative feedback I have, and I voiced this to, I mean Tim was there, Elliot was there, was I really don't have any problems with the layout. I'm okay with the layout. I think the layout is fast and it fits the game really well. I do think this crate over here is better on the premium. Now I know Tom, at least in his video, what he didn't like is because this is like a wall right here. If that ball comes over here and hits either of these, or you're trying to nudge it to get, you know, a lot of times you're nudging up, you're pushing up, trying to get the ball to bounce upwards. The problem is you got a wall there. So if you hit this and go up, you're just hitting the backboard. You're hitting the backboard, it's coming back down. So some people feel like this on the premium actually sucks the ball in more, but honestly, it's so much easier. It's so much easier to hit this edge and this target and start your modes. I had no problem starting modes on the premium compared to the pro, where the stand up is way back here.
Sensor is like in the back.
Yeah, the target's right back there. So it's definitely, that's a trade off. But Tom actually talked about this in his video. This car, at least right now on the premium at LE, swings all the way out. It did not do that very often on when I was playing it compared to the pro. The pro kind of has this like ramp, this koosh, this like.
I'm kind of glad you mentioned that, because I actually liked the car. It was weird because I hate when there's like combinations of things you like in each one, because you know you can't get it sometimes that way. I thought the car is cooler on the pro, the way it like kind of shoots it back at you, kind of. I liked it better than it peeling out, but that was just me.
Yeah.
It's going to be used as like a ball lock and stuff. Yeah. There was that skill shot with it. Like, I don't know. I definitely think the premium, I mean, it's way cooler on the premium because it's moving so much more. That to me was pretty dope.
So that's what, talking to Elliot, Elliot did tell me that, so there was 3, it came out in the Loser Kid interview. There were 3 Whitewoods of this game. And he said, if you look at this game, what part of this was on the first Whitewood? There were 2 shots, this scoop and this left orbit. That was it. He said 90% of his original Whitewood gone. It's out. Like, it didn't work. It just didn't work. Wow. And then he said Whitewood number 2, the car and this center ramp were flipped. But he said the problem is, you know, if any pinball machine, the thing that you're hitting the most is the thing that's dead center. And he's like, yeah, you're shooting the Whitewood and you're just bashing the car the whole time. And that's not the point of Wick. So they ended up moving it over, which now this center ramp looks tight, but it's definitely hittable and you can hit it from both sides. But yeah, I don't have any complaints with the layout of the game. I do think it's fun to shoot. It's clear to me that the code,
it's not there.
It's not there.
It's not there.
There's a base, but there's going to be a lot more. Ralph, you're buying one of these though. This is yeah. I mean, as a future LE owner, you know, what's your current thoughts on the game or what you've seen or played? Or, I mean,
Well, keep in mind, I bought it like before I saw it. So I didn't buy it after I saw it. I saw it before. So it was like one of those things. I had buyer's remorse because that's a lot of freaking money, right? And the funny thing is like I was saying, you get into this hobby, you figure out how to sell like everything that you're not playing to
yeah,
like fund the purchase. But when I saw it, I was like, okay, I don't have buyer's remorse now because it looks so awesome. But I'm excited about it. I played it. I kind of cheated a little bit. So well, you played it. You guys both played it before, or at least I think you did, Joel. But I don't know if you did, Ian. But I went over to Interium because I was staying in the area, the Schonberg area, to play the pro. So I had got a chance to sort of like get my bearings with the game. I like it a lot. That's the thing is, I know that when you go on these kinds of shows and you talk about how much you like something, you're automatically like, oh, this is shilling for it. I genuinely think it's really a cool game. So I'm excited to buy it. Although I did it in reverse. I should have played it first and then bought it. But I don't know. There was my buddy Nick works at Starcade. He's the general manager at Starcade in Minnesota. And he's like, dude, this game, he knows me really well. He's my best friend. He's like, this game is a Ralph game. He's like, you're going to want to buy it. And when he said that, I trust him. He knows me that well. He's like, you're going to love this game. And he was right. I really enjoy the game. So, but I agree. Like the code definitely seems like being newer to this, I do notice that like, it's kind of like video games. Like Stern releases it and it's sort of like, what is it? Minimal viable product or whatever. It's like, it works. And the code is there and you can say it's a full game, but they tend to like make the updates, which like I didn't live through Bond, I guess, being a game people didn't like because I played it with the code good. Like to me, I was like, man, Bond's freaking awesome. Like, why do people not love it? But then I realized, I guess the code wasn't that great in the beginning, right? So
yeah, unfortunately,
it wasn't for a long time, a long time.
Yeah, I streamed it. I was, thanks to Zach, I was one of the first to stream it, and yeah, it was
like, why was it bad? I guess it'd be cool. Like, I'm interested in that.
There was very little there. You could not, you couldn't stack anything. You could not. There was no mini wizard modes of any kind. So there was no like reason to do like, what do I want to do? Do I want to focus on henchmen? Do I want to focus on the major villains? Do I want to? It basically every time you hit start, it's like, well, I can play multi-ball, and if I start a mode and then start multi-ball, it'll stop my mode. So it'll just do multi-ball, or it'll do this, it'll do that. There was no, like the Bond women, the whole multiplier system wasn't in there. There was you had no missiles, like you couldn't spot any shots.
The missiles weren't even a thing?
Nope.
Like that wasn't even a concept then?
None of that was in there. And so that's something that, it is clear. One thing that Gomez, there was a whole presentation he gave, and one of the things he showed us was basically a very structured timeline of what their optimal, the goal of what from starting on a game to sending out the game. How many weeks that is, and then their tangibles, what they're trying to achieve throughout the whole schedule. And it is clear in that schedule, the goal is to be at 1.0 code. That's the goal. There are dates in there for 0.80 code. There are dates for 0.90 code. The last few games that have come out have not been 1.0 and not been near 1.0. It is. I don't think I've ever seen code before 0.8. But with that said, I don't necessarily think 0.8 means 80% of the games in it. I just think it may just be an arbitrary number.
I think it is an arbitrary number for sure. Yeah.
So Wick is 0.81 right now. Does that mean 81% of the game is in it? I don't think so. I do not. I think it's less than 81% of the game. I think there's a solid base of a structure to what they want. I know with Bond, 81% of the game was not in there when I was streaming it. But
Foo Fighters was pretty good. It wasn't like crazy, but it was like, I mean, a lot of the game was in there.
So Pinmong points out something really well, and Rick Nagel, I had a really good opportunity. He was there. I had a really good time to talk with him, and I know Elwin kind of takes a different approach on his games. Like right now in Wick, the first car multi-ball's in there, but even the second car multi-ball's in there. Like they've put a lot in the game, but not. There's really not any particular element that's in the game that I feel is fully fleshed out. It's just they put a lot in the game. While I know Elwin kind of takes the approach of, I want to make sure the first 10 minutes of the game is in the game, and it's fleshed out, because that's what everybody's going to experience, right? So like the first multi-ball in Jaws was fully there, fully fleshed out. Even the modes were fully there, fully fleshed out. But none of the mini wizard modes were in there, and that's what they're releasing now. It's like 4th of July just came out. There was another mini wizard mode that just came out. So it's very clear too that Keith watches how people are playing the game. They're watching the initial streams, so he's balancing that. So sure, I think a lot of Keith's games come out at 0.80, but that's purposeful. He wants to see people play them. He wants to react to how people are playing. He wants to adapt. And then he wants to make sure, though, that first 10-minute experience that everybody can have of the game is good. And then he's going to keep adding the deeper stuff as the game goes on. That's the vibe that I get on how Keith handles his code releases.
I think you're absolutely right. And that active approach is really like leads to a cool product, because I've been loving, like, I'm obsessed with Jaws, like, especially the last couple of weeks. I actually mentioned that to Keith. I'm like, it's just such an interesting, that game teaches you how to play it. And then once you do, it's a totally unique experience to pinball, that it like kind of makes me giddy to play it, you know?
Yeah.
And it's, and like, that's just on the inventiveness of like some really fun shots. I play a pro, you know, I don't play a premium, and I even love the just like drop all the way down on the
awesome.
left-hand side, and like so cool, like and what a weird, like, if you are just looking at, when I looked at that game, I'll just talk about me. When I saw that game first premiered, I was like, it's empty. There's
Jaws.
nothing in there.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't get it. And then even after I played it once or twice, I was like, I guess maybe. And then now is it sort of, no, but seriously, like now it's the thing that I go to first, and I'm like excited, and it's like you can combo, you know, 5 and 6 shots, 7 shots pretty easily. And when you're doing that, it's a totally unique experience. So
Ralph, you haven't borrowed a Jaws? Have you had the opportunity to borrow a Jaws?
So I was trying to, this is so funny, because the marketing contact at Stern, I was like, hey, so when Jaws was announced, I was like, and they were coming to pick up, I think it would have been Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, you know, I know you guys really busy and Jaws just launched. I was trying to be like really cool. I was like, but if you wanted to send a Jaws, that would be so awesome, right? Like, I was trying to be cool about it. And he's like, oh man, we can't. Like, so I've asked like 3 or 4 times for Jaws, and they've said no every single time.
Well, I hope you can get one. Honestly, I mean, I've been bugging Zach about, I've streamed the Pro, and I had a blast on the Pro, but I know now that premiums are out, I'm like, Zach, you know, there's a lot more content here. I feel like I should maybe get a premium to stream once or twice, and just because honestly I want to play the game more, and it's been long enough that Keith and Rick and Elizabeth Gieske, they continue to add to the game to make it better. So it's awesome, man. It's a lot of fun, but it's cool. It was cool being at Stern and talking to the different designers and even some of the different coding teams. And they all, you know, Dwight Sullivan, he's got so much passion for his products. And I know I've talked a lot to Dwight about Venom and the system, the XP system, and the challenges that Dwight had with balancing. How do I make a game that's fun for somebody to step up and play, even if they only play it 5 times their whole life? But then also, how do I make a game that has code that wants you to put in more quarters because you want to level up on location? And then how do I make a game for the people that bought the LE that have it in their house that want to play it over and over and over again for years and years to come? And somehow you just magically have to make code that fits all those people. And I don't envy people that do that. I don't. That's got to be a near impossible challenge.
Yeah.
But they care. They watch a lot of content. They watch their Insider Connect is giving them a ton of information so they can see how, you know, the percent of people getting to different areas and all that. They're doing a lot there on trying to make sure that code, by the time it's 1.0,
okay, hold on.
What?
Hey, now straight down the middle. Now flipping out, send in Ralph. Everyone's getting free
I
games.
think he's
No,
kidding.
Everyone's getting free
Zach,
games,
yeah.
but me. Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah, okay. Look at y'all.
It's a joke, Ian.
I'm the one.
It's a
I'm
joke.
I'm the one actively out there trying to sell myself. These
Yeah.
guys get free games all the time. Who? Someone? What? One of you guys? Come on, give me something. I'll take whatever. I'll take another Torpedo Alley. I'll take
Yeah.
2 of them.
That's you need yeah, you know, I don't have an answer for you, and
I'll send you my Venom, Ian.
there.
What did I?
No, seriously, I will.
Okay.
Oh, you said you'd take anything. You just
I
looked
just
so
acted so disappointed by that.
What?
Wow.
Ian,
I
You
love
disappoint me
Brian.
with
I love
that.
Brian Eddy. That's all this show will say. But I don't. Yeah, I did. I don't
That
know.
sigh
Sorry,
was
man.
so
That's not
strong,
it.
man. That
It was
awesome.
real.
Wow,
You saw
Ian,
it.
that was so.
Yeah. No, I get you.
How
But no, there's okay. So I mean, yeah, just to kind of wrap up. I get it. There's really no way. I know we have to record a triple drain, and I know the 3 of us are going to talk about our experience at Stern, and I just don't know how to talk about it without sounding like a shill. I mean, I had a great time. Besides the
Kinda
tour,
true.
besides the tour, being really impressed with how well they run the actual manufacturing of the game. It's just such an impressive operation. And then to just be able, the most beneficial thing was just the ability to have so many one-on-one conversations with, everybody from somebody like a Keith Elwin to a Gary Stern to a Seth Davis to there's a guy named Ben. Ben's job is with Insider Connect. He does all the little badges. So every single badge, and that guy is so passionate about Insider Connect and what it can do and what he wants it to do and all this, and talking to him for a while about that. What's her name? I think it's Rebecca with Hot Nudge. She actually works for Stern. She runs PAM, the parts. What is it? Parts and merchandise? Parts, the A is a different thing. Maybe it's parts and they call it PAM. That's all she does. Is so like if you call Stern and you're saying I need this, she's the person to find it and get it for you and box it up. I mean, it was so cool seeing so many different areas of Stern and get to talk to him and everything. So that was really cool. But we should talk about the Gomez presentation. I would say the Gomez presentation, it was an hour. I could listen to George Gomez talk about anything pinball related. That guy, it's awesome. But
Yeah.
I'll show George Gomez, no problem. There's zero hesitation.
100%.
But my main takeaways from the presentation were 2 things. It was licensing and BOM, the bill of material. It was basically, let me talk to you about why our machines cost what they cost, and let me tell you what licensing really is. And I feel like I talk a lot, so I don't know. I mean, Ralph, you want to start? Pick one of those 2. Which ones do you want to talk about, and give us your overall thought?
Being completely being completely transparent, I thought that that presentation was good, but it ran a little long. Like I felt like he was trying to reinforce a point, and I don't think any of us in the room needed him to reinforce the point on a couple things. But like, you know what I mean? I thought we were all like in agreement, like, okay, you've definitely made the case. So that part of it just started to feel a little bit weird toward like the tail end. It just felt like long in the tooth. But like everything he was saying was interesting. The thing that I found, and this is sort of when I'm gonna go back to like 2018 when the 1UP thing happened. There's this guy, he had worked at Capcom and he had worked at Sony, and his name was John D, and he was the VP of licensing at 1UP. And I used to always complain to him, how come you can't make this look like the real thing? Like, why is this artwork like this? And why does the marquee look like that? Why is the control panel? And he's like, I can only do what the licensors let me do. Yeah. And so like, I heard that back then, and I was like, okay, so, cause he was working with like Warner Brothers to try to do Mortal Kombat, or so it's like, now that things got to the point they got to, like all these larger companies own a lot of these IPs, so they're just harder to work with. So hearing George talk about like the one that stuck out to me that I loved the story, and I know I won't go all the way into it because I don't know if he wanted us to talk about all of it, but the Aston Martin on Bond was like the coolest thing, because he's like, we showed them the model and it didn't have a roof because the ball was going to come up. And they're like, but Aston Martins have roofs. So it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So I was like, for him to go, well, shit, we have to redesign the whole car now. And when we saw, for the people listening, we saw this big, project timeline. And so if Aston Martin takes a couple more weeks to approve this thing, every single part of that process now slips. So I just thought, I appreciated him going over that. And I know like the common, like a casual buyer isn't going to necessarily care, but I think in the hobby, when, I definitely started to I talked to Ian a lot and I started peeling back the onion more, listening to more podcasts, because I want the information. So I think the people that are listening to this show would really appreciate that level of detail, right?
Yeah, it was, yes. So he talked a lot about licensing. He did share some stories. And what was cool was, what was funny is, we're all in this room with George and Seth Davis and Gary. I mean, Gary was there, and Gary, still, thank you for being here. I know you could have logged off, but I really appreciate you still being here. But, he talked for like an hour. It was well over an hour, I think.
It was definitely at least an hour.
So
it was like an hour and a half.
Yeah. So when I was talking to some of the other Stern employees later on in the evening or afternoon, they're like, what happened in there? Like, what did, basically, what did Gary talk, or what were they talking about? Like, what was Gomez talking about? And I told him, I was like, well, yeah, he talked about licensing a lot in the painful parts of licensing. So what was funny was hearing from other Stern employees a whole bunch of other licensing stories about how tough that can be. And I mean, I heard some stories of art packages of the initial sketches all approved. They get to the next series of whatever, all approved, and then they get to the final art approval, and they'll be like, you know what, actually we don't want to do that. So they're like, yeah, on one of our games, the entire pro art package, right at the end, thrown out. And then they have to go back to the artist and say, we need you to draw a whole new art package. And that's the power that the licensors have. The licensors have the ability to direct the theme of the game. Like, who are you playing as? Are you the good guy? Are you the bad guy? They can talk about any mode they want. They can change. It doesn't matter how, a coder can code a whole mode and be like, check out how cool this is. And they're like, we don't really think that's something that person would do. So let's take that out. And that was the thing of, honestly, as I'm in the theater in the room watching this, I thought of American Pinball. I know Franchi's probably here. American Pinball harps a lot about how much they like having non-licensed pinball machines and the freedom that it gives you. And I get it now. It gives them complete freedom to do whatever they want with a non-licensed theme. But unfortunately, a lot of what sells a pinball machine could be the license, could just straight be the license. I mean, there were people I saw in chat earlier. If Pokemon is a thing, there are people ready to buy that right now. Franchi, I know you're not an American Pinball employee. I know that you just did Galactic Tank Force, an incredible non-licensed pinball machine, and the art direction. I mean, you had Franchi. I'm assuming not a single person could tell you you had complete freedom to do that art package in however you wanted to do it. That as an artist has to be awesome compared to some of these licensed pins, which I'm assuming, some of these artists draw something awesome and they're super proud of, and somebody somewhere goes, nah, no, I don't want to do that.
So do you remember, I can't remember who said this. In my video, I say that Elliot said it, but I don't know if it was Elliot. Someone was talking about how the stained glass thing on the LE, that was not the preferred design from Stern themselves, but people loved it. But I can't remember who told. Were you guys in the room when they told that story?
I wasn't in the room for that. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't during the licensing conversation, but they were saying that was one of their out of the box ideas, but then the license holder loved it.
Okay.
Wasn't that a Randy Martinez idea though? The artist himself, I think, kind of came up with that idea. It was my understanding. I'm really trying to do an interview with Randy because I just think he's so under. Dude, we all love Franchi. I love Franchi too, but I just mean I love Randy Martinez's work on the pins that he's done. So yeah,
there's a lot of talent.
And that's a really inventive new thing there. So I thought that he was kind of behind that, but I'm not sure.
No, he was, but he said someone there said that like that was the one they thought wouldn't get approved. Like they're like, oh, it's not going to get approved, but they liked it. But then the license holder ended up coming back and being like, actually, I guess Lionsgate in this case was like, oh, we really dig this one.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of cool when like their out of the box idea was the one that they decided to go with. You know, that's cool. I'm sure. You know, if you're the
Totally.
designer.
Yeah.
But,
it's there's a lot there. There's a lot that he really pointed out, and it's just, I get it. I think it's easy as a pinball enthusiast that when we see something in a pinball machine that we don't like, and then we call out Stern or we call out whoever on it, and their answer is, well, that was what the licensor wanted. You know, it seems like the licensor is an easy scapegoat. It seems like it. And it probably, I mean, honestly, I think, I mean, it's, you can believe them or you can't. It's either it is the licensor or it isn't. But it does sound like absolutely the licensor, they have the ability to stop anything at any time. And all you got to do, that you got to deal with it. You got to handle it. So, you know, even on Jaws, I'm still looking at the Jaws playfield. It sounds like that licensor was actually really easy to work with. The only thing they couldn't deal with was in the art, the Rob Snyder, whatever, they couldn't get him. And that's only just because the estate didn't like return their calls or whatever. Like they couldn't, sorry, we can't put the guy on there. The guy, you know, we didn't get a permission, but they got film clips because that was a totally different license. So it's, I don't know, it's kind of a crazy thing. So he really drove that home with a lot of good stories, and I wish they would share more of them. Scheider?
Scheider. Yeah, it's
okay.
Scheider.
Yeah, so I wish they would share more of them because, yeah, some of the stories that I heard directly from some of the employees afterwards, yeah, there's some of the games have been delayed because of licensing. You know, their final hour, and boom, they got to remove this, they got to reprint stuff, or redraw whole art packages, or art packages were not meant to look like that. But guess what? They had to redo it last minute. So nothing but respect, Franchi and the other artists out there. You've probably had to redo work last minute that you weren't pumped for. But that happens. Same with all the mechs and the games, everything.
Had either of you guys heard that story about when he told when Gary was trying to go visit HBO for The Sopranos, and he's like running around New York with like half the playfield, but he's like, George is like, yeah, like he had to go there and explain to him like what a pinball machine even is. So
yeah,
like you got to think some of these like the license holders, whatever groups they have to work with, might not have any idea of like even the 101 of a pinball machine.
Nothing.
So you're trying to get them, you know, so that has to be kind of frustrating too. But I thought that was a fun story that he told about that.
It was super fun. Yeah. He's like he said he was like spreading it out on the conference table, like the bottom half of a pinball machine to like, but also like these HBO execs, how like out of touch do you have to be to not know what a pinball machine is? Like,
right?
That's wild to me that like, this was something that was hammered home in the licensing thing is like, to most people in the world, this is like a pretty small peanuts like enterprise, like entertainment people, like they really don't have, we think of Stern and we're like, oh wow, Stern, like they have all the power, all the money. It's like to them going into these meetings, it's, you know, they're like, they're pitching, so
they have to sell it. And what they did talk about is sometimes these licensing people they're working with, these guys are the ones that just licensed a coffee mug, or they're the ones that just licensed a t-shirt, you know? And now all of a sudden it's like, hey, we need print media, we need video assets, we need audio clips, we need you to approve the theme, the overall vibe of this game, what is a mode, you know? Like what is like what is a call out? One of the stories they did say, and I don't think he'd be upset about it, was they said they had written a whole lot of lines for The Dark Knight when he designed The Dark Knight, and they said like they get this line, you know, they had to approve all the lines, and they're like line 44, Batman would not say that. So you know, it's just like I don't know, and sometimes, you know, I think it's clear that some pinball machines, a lot of pinball machines that do really well have humor in it, and there are times that a licenser's like, this is a serious IP, so no, no humor in the game. You know, it's stuff like that. So it was kind of eye opening. So I feel like I want to I don't know. I want to kind of challenge myself when I look at some of these games on what all they had to get approved. And it was after talking to some of the designers, the coders, some of the people at Stern, it is clear that licensing is kind of a nerve-wracking, constant battle
Yeah.
that they feel the entire manufacturing process of the pinball machine, and even afterwards. Like, I'm assuming, Chris, maybe you can answer, Franchi, like, you probably can't really take a breath until the game is finally shipped, because at any moment that licensor could tell you to redraw whatever. I mean, that's got to be just rough. That's got to be rough. So what is Franchi said? I just got done explaining what inserts are on a playfield and why the art reflects those shapes. They didn't understand why these random shapes were interfering with the art. Yeah. And Stern talked about that they have to fly people out to meet with licensors to explain pinball and explain the complexity of it.
And part of this is like, I understand people being upset with Stern, because look, to be frank, if you're spending like $7,000 is so much money, right?
Yeah.
And $10,000 is so much money. And so, right, we have nothing. Like, we build it up in our head, and you want it to be this perfect thing, and like, hey, as soon as this theme is announced, you're like, oh God, I hope they did it the right way. And so you're paying so much money, but also, like, there is the just element of, we really did hear from these guys, right, Joel? Like, they hear everything that we say, for sure they do. I remember, like, I was sitting there talking to Brian Eddy when we were like eating pizza, and it was just obvious to me he's like a really sweet guy who's like, here's all the good things and all the bad things, and they all do. Like, they're George Gomez even said this, I think. He's like, we're part of the community too.
Yeah.
We're game buyers, we're fans just the same. And truly they are, because I talked to George Gomez and I said, dude, you could have been like designing missiles for Raytheon, and you chose to like bring joy to people and like make toys, like, that's kind of a cool decision. Like, a cool person makes that decision who is that smart, that well spoken. And so I came away, like, in general from Stern, not thinking like maybe it was successful for them in this way, and like, I came away not thinking they're like the Yankees anymore. I definitely see them much more as like, not exactly a family business, but a group of people really trying hard to make good products and not just pump the margins and like build their company, build their empire. Like, I do think they genuinely love games. Like, talk to any of them. So that, in that way, I think it was a big success.
Yeah, so my honest takeaway was with Stern, and so many of the people that we talked there, I mean, the reason they work there is they love pinball. They love pinball. And I think a lot of these guys could be doing other things, but they love pinball. And I think they do the job because they're passionate about doing the job. At least everybody in the design team, the design side of it. Obviously, I haven't had a chance to there really wasn't anybody sales-wise that we talked to. Franchi said, I'm working on something now where the licenser didn't want to have to go to the main actor for approvals and asked me to use the world's most awful assets to get the art package done. I had to put up a fight to get actor approvals, but won the fight. For you, the pinball fans out there, thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thanks
Yes.
for doing that for Harry Potter. That's amazing. That's so wild. Thank you.
Yeah, I could get it. Well, if you have a licensor, it's like, what, here's a folder of a bunch of, here's a bunch of posters that have all been approved, like, just, there's enough art there. You got to be able to make a pinball machine out of that. Right. Like, oh man, I don't know. It's they gave us a glimpse of how frustrating, licensing is, but obviously we're not living it every day. So I do have respect, and that's all companies, all pinball companies are fighting that battle. And then they talked about the bomb. And this is something where when you walk around that facility and you see how many people are working there, you see how many employees they have. I think they said something like they technically have like 500 employees Was that?
Yeah,
They
that's what they
said they
said.
employ 500, but then they like had another metric. They were like, if
Yeah.
you count our extended partners, it's like some ungodly number. But I
Yeah.
think they employ 500 is what they said.
So these are photos taken from a digital camera, so they don't have the feel and the graininess and the character that he is. This is Nap Arcade. Jason Knapp was there. He was super nice. But yeah, these are all games ready to ship out. But I mean, just on the floor alone, I mean, there was 100+ people there doing every step of the process, from wires to final QC. I mean, all those, obviously they have to pay for all these people. They talked about the bomb license as part of it. And I saw Vic and some other people in chat were saying, you know, they think 50% of the cost of a game goes to license. I don't agree with that. And there were two stories. One, they were talking about sometimes you have a super expensive license like Beatles. Well, Beatles set the requirement of, they only wanted there to be 1,000. It was like 1,000 or 1964.
64. Yeah, I think that's
so.
right.
There could only be 1,964 games. So if there's only going to be 1,964 games, whatever the license cost, 1969, whatever the license cost had to be divided by all those games. So that's why even the cheapest Beatles at the time was what, $8,000 or $9,000. Like, okay, there are instances where when you are restricted, that that I get how that cost transferred. But one of the questions that was asked, and Scott with Loser Kid asked it, and I actually ended up asking another Stern employee later to try to solidify the answer. But my question was, when you have an expensive license like Star Wars, okay, which they know they're going to sell a lot, and they're gonna build in the cost of that license with, you know, a little bit of that cost is in every single Star Wars game you have. But then you take an unlicensed game like Black Knight Sword of Rage. Does that mean if both of those games are the same price, the same final price to the consumer, if the license for Black Knight Sword of Rage is cheaper, does that mean that Black Knight Sword of does Black Knight Sword of Rage have more money to put into the game?
It kind of makes sense.
Question. You would think, right?
Okay.
You would think like, well, maybe Stern had to pull stuff out of Star Wars because the license was so freaking expensive. The answer was no. What I heard directly from a designer was the hardware that you're allowed to put in your game is not dependent on how expensive the license is. So it's universal. It's universal. What basically they're saying, it's universal with every game. So that's I'm trying to, what are we saying? Steve confirmed that. So Pinball, Led Zeppelin being expensive definitely means less bomb for that pin. What I'm hearing was no, and that is a assumption, or that is something that a lot of pinball buyers think. So with that in mind, right? If somebody gets Harry Potter is going to be really expensive, right? So what does that mean? Either the Harry Potter games are going to be super expensive, or is there not going to be much in the game because they can't afford it, right? Like we're paying so much for the license that we can't pay for the mechs. I hope that's not true. I mean, am I crazy, or what are our thoughts here?
I think.
Go ahead, Ralph.
No, I was just going to say, I think the bomb conversation gets really complicated, right? Because like some people like dumb it down to basically just like, this is the cost of the parts, and if I put all those parts in the box, this is what it should cost. But I think where he was trying to go with it, I think a lot of times was not only where you were going with it, Joel, but like that doesn't include any like marketing or all of the other things that go into making the game. But the one thing that I thought was kind of interesting about the whole like bomb conversation is, this is where I think it gets really complicated, and why the prices can't vary per game is like when he gave that example of, hey, that one thing in Star Trek, that one mold cost us like $100,000 to secure. Well, now they got to go, all right, well, how are we going to make this back? So it's like some games might have less mechs and less parts, but the cost is still the same because they're trying to absorb this like cost from another game. They didn't say that exactly, but that's kind of what I got from it. It's like some games get more investments. Yeah, it's like this ebb and flow because you gotta like make yourself whole. So it's interesting and be profitable at the same time.
Franchi here in chat saying another consideration of the fees for voice talent. Some of the actual actors want a ton of cash. These are the things where I mean, without looking at a specific example of just, okay, let's take Godzilla. Like, where did the money go in that game versus Jaws or whatever? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if it comes down to the designer deciding, like, you know what, I want to use the actual actor from Jaws because I would rather pay for him and take a mech out of the game. I don't know. Is that a thing? Is that something that Keith Elway, is that a decision he made or no? Like, I don't know. I don't know if that.
It kind of sounded like the teams could have the power to make those decisions, though, I think.
Well, the good news about the Richard Dreyfuss call-outs was he took half his fee cash, which I was surprised by.
He took what?
Half his fee in Cole's cash. Do you
Oh,
guys have Cole's there?
No, so you're when you said Coles, your mic
broke
cut out.
out.
So it just said have his-
What did he do?
Yeah, Cole's cash.
And these are the things.
Loves those high-rise jeans.
Yeah, Richard Dreyfuss. I don't know. I just don't know, and we may never get answers like that. But I don't know with these designers. I don't know if they're the ones having to make the decision of like, well, I could use movie assets, but they're this. Now, some of the stories I heard was, sometimes they just know right off the bat, like, hey, the licensor, you get this license, but you will get no film themes. You will get no film clips. Or you know what? You're doing, what was it? Like, you're doing Avengers, but you're not doing Disney filmed Avengers. You're doing Marvel's Avenger. Like,
Right.
So sometimes it's pretty clear right out the bat what you're going to have access to or what you're not. But for John Wick, for them to get all 4 movies, was that money that came out of the bill of materials for the hardware of the game to use all 4 million? I don't know that answer.
Yeah, they didn't break it down to like that granularity.
Well, to me, it feels more like the more specific your mech, the more that's coming out of your, like, those things are the really expensive things, right?
Yes.
Like, if they can reuse U ramps, if they can, because people always like to try to point out, right? They're like, hey, this is the same mech as from this. And I mean, they basically kind of confirm that's kind of true. So, like, to me, that kind of says the most inventive designers are going to be the ones who can almost use those common components in like new and interesting ways, right? Like, not to keep bringing it back to Jaws, but those kind of things, like, that's cool.
He did talk. That's one thing, is he said there are certain things that do get allocated like across games. So I know Expression Lighting. Expression Lighting originally came out with Led Zeppelin, I think. So it's like, did that mean a lot of the initial R&D budget for Expression Lightings, did that come out of Led Zeppelin to make that? Or my guess, in the way that George almost described it, was if the designer can sell this as, I'm going to create this, but this is going to be something that could be used from here on out, then they would say, okay, that's not going to come out of that game budget. That's something we can allocate across a lot. He had an example of like tooling the mechanical or the actual metal injection molded tools. If somebody's creative and thinks up a new part, some plastic part, well, if it's unique to that game, that has to come out of that game's budget, and that costs money. But if it's something that could be potentially used in other games, then they're like, all right, we'll actually let that tool, let's make it a little more universal and let that use that tooling, and we can have that cost go across other games. And I know when
it seems.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, it seems like that should be like the Brian Eddy rule or something, because he always has the big weird thing in the middle, like that's his, that you couldn't use in anything else.
It's like he had the little dangly target on Mando, but then he used 3 of those dangly targets on Venom. So it's like, okay, let's think ahead. Like, let's think ahead here. It's little things like that I just don't know. I wish we could know more specifics, but it was very.
I don't think. Sorry, I didn't.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah.
No, I really don't think. At least for me, I didn't leave that going like. And I'm also not someone that obsesses about the bomb and the prices, but even though they are expensive, I didn't leave there going like, oh, okay, you've proved to me that like the cost is the cost because you explained the whole bomb. Like it's just there's so much openness to it, and
Yeah.
there's like they're not gonna tell us like what their margins are on the games. Like there's so many other factors they're just not gonna tell us. But I was glad that they told us what they did. I just didn't leave that being like, oh, okay, I could have this argument with someone if they wanted to like
Yeah.
fight with me over it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, we're
Like
stern
I
shills
couldn't.
now. We need to be
We don't have
prepared.
to argue, right? We can just be like it is what it is. Just shut up and like it.
Yeah, once we get that check, well, all three of us, once we get that
Yeah,
check that is mailed to us to reimburse us for our expenses, then we have no excuses at that point. We have officially been paid money from Stern Pinball. I don't know what else. Gary, thank you. I know he's signing it. But it was very interesting. It was very interesting because there's just a whole lot there. There's a whole lot there. And I'm trying to think of what all, I mean, yeah, they just really tried to bring into perspective that, yeah, there's a lot they have to pay for. And somebody made a joke on Facebook. I saw it afterwards, and they're like, okay, well, the cost of an LE is $13,000 because Stern has to pay 500 people. Like, well, I mean, they're a big operation for a reason. There's a reason you can get 3 games a year. There's a reason you can count on the code being finished and complete. There's a reason you can count on the reliability and consistency of a Stern pinball machine. They're a huge operation for, and there's plenty of benefits from it. Magnum Chris, what we can see with the money they are making, they're reinvesting into Stern, making things better. For example, their new building. Yeah. What do we got?
You know what actually was eye-opening to me though, and this I didn't know, and maybe you guys knew this, but I didn't realize that they're covering 100% of the costs for Insider Connected. Like I thought maybe they bought infrastructure. Like I thought at first, oh, Stern must host that themselves, but they don't. Like that's all hosted in Amazon. So that I work in tech. Like Amazon is expensive, and
AWS,
the whole point of Amazon is you get into AWS and it's like nickel and dime, and the more you use, the more it costs, and they could change the rates on you. So like I got that because that's not anything. I mean, at least from our perspective, we're not paying for it. It might be baked into the cost, but we're not paying for it yet. You know,
it's not. We don't pay any sort of subscription. And Franchi did point out my hat because I'm shilling. This is a Stern hat. The reason I'm doing this is because this is the exact same hat as the TPN hat I wear all the time. So I don't know where. I mean, it's the exact same hat. The exact same hat. So I don't know if I influenced them making these, but I bought this out. I bought this hat. We all did get swag. We got a Stern t-shirt. There was like this kind of little jacket we got, fanny pack, little bag. We got a signed John Wick Translite.
Again, I didn't get any of this stuff.
You had the bag and they said no. They took it out of you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It was cool. Fanny pack with a roll of $10 worth of quarters because they bust us out to Logan Arcade so we could play pinball the rest of the night. It was pretty great. But
that was my favorite part. And man, just like partying with those guys, it was crazy, right? That Gary Stern stayed. Like we were leaving the party bus to go home, and Gary Stern's like waving us away as he's like going back in. Like, what a party animal.
It was a cool day for, I kind of got both sides, but talking to some of the Stern employees, some of them were like, yeah, today was really strange. Today was just odd because they wanted all of us to come in, but they told us work, but make sure your desks are clear of any future products and make sure you don't have any future products on the screen. So they're like, so what the heck could we work on? You know, like and that's why a bunch of the employees were just hanging out with us. And then others were coming and going. And then obviously they invited a bunch of the Stern employees to also be at Logan Arcade. So it was really cool having a chance to just interact and be there and all that.
So I'm friends with some of those guys, Joel, but maybe you know this, like, because I didn't really ask. So that wasn't like mandatory that they had to be there chaperoning us. They were there. Okay, word. That's what I was wondering, because I was like, are these guys just putting like the full court press on us where it's like
you have to go to Logan Arcade and you have to stay out till 10 o'clock.
Exactly, because like Keith is out there, and like you said, Rick was out there, and just everyone was, and it's like, okay, cool. So they actually wanted to be there. That's actually good to know. Like that makes me feel a little better.
It was cool. So. It was really cool interacting with so many of them and having a chance to talk and just talk shop really. But yeah, I just to kind of wrap up the bomb conversation, it's there's a lot there. There's a lot of bomb there, and I understand I'm not the economy major, but I have heard people make the argument if you actually pull up an inflation calculator and you compare a Ghostbusters Pro to the Pro of today, it's actually below value. Like the inflation is higher, or not. What I mean by that is they would have to charge more to match the value of the Ghostbusters Pro. The only machine right now, the Pro and the Premium are technically cheaper if you compare it to a Ghostbusters Pro or a Ghostbuster Premium. A Pro or Premium today is technically cheaper. The LE is the only thing that's more expensive than inflation was however many years ago. I'm not,
and that makes sense. That makes sense to me because I'm not. I mean, like all respect to Tom, but just like I'm not an LE guy with like people in my life. Like premiums give you almost everything except for cosmetic stuff. To me, like if we're talking about the difference in like Wick, it's really funny, right? Because I could see an uncharitable view of Wick where it's like, okay, it's the gun locker, and then mostly really it's like extra kind of game components, right? Having the drop target that locks it in there, having the manual ball lock. But to me, those are like huge quality of life things in a premium, whereas like an LE, like cool that you get the lights in the speaker and cool that you get a shaker motor, but those do seem more like collectible things to me. So if they are more expensive that way, then yeah, they're more expensive. They're significantly more expensive by the premium, if you just want to play it.
Well, like maybe is this a weird argument? Like I totally saw no reason to get the Bond premium. Like I just was like, okay, I can do without that one little ramp with the physical lock and the it's cool to see the jetpack thing, but the game is literally like just as fun. Like to me, the Pro was perfect for me for Bond.
That's not weird at all. I mean, my dream theme was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and the Turtles that I own is the Pro. So I absolutely think there are games that the Pro is good enough, or the Pro has enough.
Black Knight Sword of Rage. It's better. It's actually better.
A great one for Pro. Yeah.
And sometimes the mechs aren't worth it. They actually are more of a hassle, or they slow down the game. I mean, there's people that argue that Godzilla Pro is the better version just because they think the building slows down the game too much. It's an argument. I mean, I disagree. I own the premium, but it's there are plenty of people that feel like the Pro, and even Wick. Honestly, Wick to me, I think is a really good Pro, like a really good Pro.
Same.
I agree. I agree for sure. But like I said,
I buy the LE.
Yeah, who would buy the LE? Who would do that? It's that stained glass back glass is what it was, Ralph.
I guess to me that drop target, the Denisi lock or whatever you want to call it, like I love those mechanisms, and it was how that interacted with the bumper was so cool, right? Like when you have that multi-ball and it's sort of trapped up there like it is in Star Trek.
Yeah.
Like that part of it was so awesome to me that's the one bummer, like having a Pro is like not, but like I get it. Like, is that worth $3,000? I don't know. And like as a fan layout, like it's cool to have the Pro. So
Ralph, I'm seeing chat there. Jedi McMuffin, that's Tommy McNicholas. I don't know if you know Tommy. He's in California. But
what's so crazy is like I used to be big into mountain biking, and he's like, I rode your old Kona Kickapoo for the last 5 years. I haven't lived in California in a really long time, but if he really does have my old bike, that's freaking awesome.
Yeah. No, Tommy's awesome.
So cool.
Tommy's awesome. These wireless mics that I use are Tommy. Jedi McMuffin, he used to stream. Tommy's a
Joel,
guy.
did he give you those for free?
Yeah, so let me shill him. Yeah. No, Tommy streamed for a long time. Tommy was on TPN, and when he stopped streaming, he was like, "Hey, try out these wireless mics." And I was like, "Hey, they work great." He goes, "Okay, keep them." So, it's awesome. Yeah, I'm a shill. It's just a thing. There you go. He owes me a beer. I did say him that. If he goes to Expo, I'm buying him a beer. So there you go, Ian. There you go.
Okay. Yeah, I guess. No, people like you. It pays off to be like the most likable man in pinball.
No. Well, I don't know. I realized I wasn't expecting us to talk all 2 hours about the Stern trip, but And I don't think we helped ourselves coming off any less shilly. But
Who cares, dude?
yeah.
Like, don't live your life beholden to these like weirdos on the internet.
Yeah.
Like, you can be free, bro. Like, start a magazine.
There was no,
You
yeah. Thank God there
you're
was no
good.
spreadsheet tonight. Is this shilling out with friends? Yeah, exactly. Speaking of shill, yeah, Chris Franchi bought me 4 cases of Pringles that are going to last us next 3 years. So thanks for that, Franchi.
Nice.
But yeah, man, it was a fun trip. It was a really fun trip. I have no idea if this is something that Stern's planning on doing regularly. You know, if they do it for every release, I would be really surprised. But it was, I do think timing. I get it. I think the the Wick release was a little bumpy, especially with some of the content creator drama, if you even want to call it that. So to invite some people in to really see the facility, but also they actually have their facility like fully up and running. And if Stern sends me an invite and says, "Hey, we want to pay for you to come check out our place," I'm gonna answer that invite. And honestly, if JJP did the same thing, American Pinball, Spooky, I can figure that out. I'm not gonna. Why would I say no to that? So
They don't even send me invites, and I still show up. Spooky was super cool when I did that. I was like, "Hey, can I come down, Wisconsin bros?" And they were like, "Yeah, absolutely." And I got to see their weird little toaster ovens and everything. So absolutely.
Hey, PJ, thanks for the sub. So, yeah, let's go ahead and wrap it up. But Ralph, I mean, we'll start with you. Now the more that you're getting into this hobby, this community, I don't know, just overall thought. I mean, you're really getting in here. Regrets? What's yeah.
Every community has its like dark side. It doesn't matter what one you're in, and you just kind of it. Although I will say this, I kind of operated in a silo with pinball because when I first was like, hey, you know what? Like, I like this enough that I want to cover it a little bit, like not much. The views were terrible. Like no one on my channel cared. And I was like, is this what pinball, like, does no one literally watch these videos?
Yeah, ping pong?
And
we
so,
still make that, yeah.
Well, I'm a little jealous though, because now you fast forward 3 years from the first pinball video I published, and now it seems like there's more interest, which is good. I just wish back then when I was like trying to introduce it to like the audience I had, which was mostly arcade people, I wish they would have cared about it then. But hey, they care about it now, or at least they seem to. So that's cool. But it's always hard to like shift. It's not like I'm trying to ignore arcade. I still am going to create the arcade content. It's just that my personal interests dictate the channel direction all the time. Like I'm not going to just like go make something because it's like I feel like I have to. And right now, pinball has like taken over. It's just, I was telling like Ian, I don't have a lot of friends that are hardcore into it. So like I call Ian and I geek out with him for like an hour on the phone. And I'm like, I love this. I love that. Oh my gosh. Oh, pinball. And then I'm like, why does this one guy say this? He hasn't played the game. Why does he say it sucks? How can he say it sucks? So like I've gotten into like the dark edges of the hobby already but I try to ignore it. And the reason why is because I don't do the hobbies I do to be like bummed out or get down or like have drama. I get into the hobby to like get away from that stuff. So I find it doesn't matter what thing you cover, what hobby you're in, there's always going to be these edges of it, which can be like kind of toxic is overused, but like just sort of so negative that it'll like make you not even like the hobby anymore. So I just find I ignore that and I'm having a blast with it. I do not regret it at all. Maybe the only regret is the money part of it, because it's not a cheap hobby.
It's not a cheap hobby, and the space, right?
Yeah, and like to be honest with you, like think about this, like everyone out there, even like how much of your life is actually dictated by the internet? Almost nothing. So like who cares? Who cares that like it can be as toxic as they want to be. Like go out to the arcade. Like my favorite thing to do 4 p.m. like when I have a job, when I don't have a job, is like I ride my bike down to the arcade and I play for an hour and a half and I like lose myself in it. And that's what I like. That's why Nudge started, like, is literally because of that feeling and like that release. So like you can obviously, like, I follow all the people. Like I watch Kaneda's like Saturday morning spectaculars. I find a perverse pleasure in it. I don't know. But like, dude, that's not what pinball is to me. That's like pinball discourse, and like pinball is cool, and like, why wouldn't I like the companies that make more pinball? I pretty much almost like them all. I mean, there are a couple that I feel like maybe flim flam artists, but like other than those, other than those companies, like, if you make it, I mess with you. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I for sure. But
I do want to correct one thing I said because someone in the comments kind of called it out. I have no problem with anyone saying that anything sucks. It's just that it's frustrating when you're in the hobby and the game literally has been in no one's hands yet, and they're just like saying it's terrible.
yeah,
Because I feel like for me, this is just me, at least since I started in the hobby, I have to play a game for a while before I can like really go, all right, like this is good or this is bad. Because some games are really hard at first. And like you don't feel like you're getting anywhere. And then once you learn it, you're like, oh wow, like this is actually fun now. And some of them I walk away like, I don't like it. Like there are certain games that I just don't like, but I think you should play it first.
Name one. What game don't you like?
The one I don't like is actually one that everyone would probably get mad at me for not liking. I just don't like it. Like,
is it Godzilla?
No, oh hell no. I love the music in it, but I can't love Foo Fighters. I've tried.
How do I kick him out? No, is Ray Day here? Oh, please, Raymond Davidson. I haven't seen you in chat. Are you? Please be here. Please be here right now, so we can blame your code. Is that?
That's. I mean, I totally set Ralph up there, but yeah, I mean that's a totally wrong opinion. The only right answer to that is Metallica. Actually,
no way, no. But that's what's cool though about pinball is there's a lot of pinball out there. There's a lot of different types of pinball. Like I love Turtles. I love that game.
I love
Turtles. And there's a lot of people that think I'm so dumb for liking Turtles and owning Turtles over a lot of other games. But no, there's a lot of variety out there. But I totally get what you're saying. It's hard to it is tough the more they're in this hobby and release day comes and this is going to be the best game ever and then the game's released and people just poo-poo it for the next 48 hours straight and it's like not a single like the game hasn't even been streamed yet. You guys are all going off of some leaked photos or a minute and a half trailer. Like just give it a shot. And I've really enjoyed what I do with flipping out because some of these times Zach drops a game off and I'm like, okay, this is going to be probably a long few weeks. And then Jared and I get into it and we're like, this game's actually really fun. Ray Day is here. He just reacted. He's in chat. Nice. Ray Day is here. Raymond. Yeah. So, Ralph, is it the layout? I need you to be very specific. Is it the layout or the code? Which part do you not like? Just so I know who you're offending.
Oh no! Well,
no, I just
that's gonna get me in trouble. It's
would you rather offend Jack Danger or the person in chat? It's like those are your options.
Yeah. So you love. I love the code.
I want to say this. I didn't say I hate it. It's just one that like I don't love. You know what I mean? No, because I love I love the Foo Fighters as a band. Like I love the band.
Well,
so cool. What's the problem? They must have really messed this up, man.
Ralph,
shut up! You're messing with me, man. It's just
Ralph,
one person's opinion. I don't know.
Do you like the Led Zeppelin pinball machine?
No.
Do you like the Rush pinball machine?
Well, I honestly haven't spent enough time on it.
I think we have our answer.
Yes.
It's Raymond.
No,
it's Raymond. It's the problem. No,
I haven't. I've played it like once, so I don't feel like I have a good gauge to say if I like it or not. But I'm also like one where I'm not going to play a music pin if I'm not super into the band, and like Rush, I don't personally care about too much.
I totally get it. I personally find it so enjoyable to give Raymond Davidson a hard time. So the fact he's in chat, he keeps coming back. I think he's fine. He's fine with you. If anything, he enjoys your opinion.
Yes,
but no, that's great. It's totally. I'm not actually trying to get you in trouble.
It's okay.
Okay, so let's go ahead and plug it up. We'll plug it up. Ralph, if you want to go first, Gary. Thank you, Gary, for being here. I know you've been. His thing as soon as we started, quiet. Boom! It just so quiet. Yeah, he really held back. I think he was just listening He's intently. Thoughtful. So, Gary, thank you for being here tonight. But Ralph, if you want to plug away, go ahead.
So this Friday, if all goes well, like after I get off here, I'm gonna finish filming a little bit more. I will be publishing my video on my experience with the Stern tour, which a lot of it we talked about here, but you know, so all my video footage that I took during that will be out on Friday. So
Nice.
I just have to figure out a thumbnail that will make someone want to click something that's already been news for a week. So that'll be fun.
Nice.
So got to come up with a creative thumbnail. But yeah, no, that'll be this Friday, and then yeah, I'm gonna go to Expo again this year, the 40th. That sounds awesome. So Expo is like I don't know. I feel like Expo was my introduction into pinball, like where I got hooked. So I'm kind of hooked on the show, and it'll be fun to be there. I'm sure you guys are all going to be there, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Gary, Gary he'll probably show up.
Gary will be there. He'll definitely be there. And like 3 people dressed like Gary that like that freak you out for sure.
Yeah. Well, Ralph, it was awesome to meet you in person, and it's cool. It's cool that more creators are coming, you know, from similar hobbies like arcade and coming into this, and hopefully the negativity isn't too much of a turn off, because honestly, there's a lot of really good people in this hobby. And
I'll say, Joel, like there was a comment like you know, Vic VP is in here in the chat, and I left a comment on one of his videos. I said, look, I don't know, like, because there were some people kind of beating him up on the in his comments, and I said, look, all I can say is my experience in pinball, the people that I've met at shows or at a barcade or whatever, have been nothing but awesome. Like they want to show you how to play the game. Ian and I were having a whole conversation about that. It's like they get stoked to see you get better. So like, sure, there's maybe some negativity or people that are kind of not the greatest in certain aspects or corners of the hobby, but as a whole, I think everyone's really cool.
Yeah.
So
except for Raymond Davidson, he's in chat. In chat here, he said, "Meet me at Expo. Pick a time and place, Ralphie." That's what he wrote.
Nice.
So yeah, man, Ray Day, you'll have to he'll walk you over to Foo Fighters and be like, okay, tell me what the problem is, huh? No, Ray's as good as it gets.
But Joel, thank you for having me, though. This
Absolutely.
was really cool to do.
Absolutely. No, I knew I wanted to get together some people that had all been there, and I was great meeting you, and I'm glad you were part of it. What is it? Magnum Chris. Joel, you're an awesome part of the community. Ralph, cool to see you dive more into pinball, and thanks to everyone that makes this hobby awesome. Dude, appreciate it, man. He's been a flipping out family member here for 11 months. Yeah, no, I'm glad you're here. Ian, go away, plug it up.
Nudgepinball.com. Right now, we obviously have the Stern thing up. The article that's going up, I think later, probably not this week, I guess next week, is going to be a chemistry guide for split flipper tournaments. So that is, if you've ever done split flipper, and I know you have, this will this will help. Ralph, do you know what that is? This is like a good moment. Do you know what's a split flipper? Do you know what that means?
I was just putting it in the chat saying, what's split? I was going to ask the chat. Now I can't.
Yeah,
so
it's when 2 people play the game at the same time. So like you would have the left flipper and I would have the right.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
So we're doing like kind of the PG one that we're putting online, and then in issue 4 we actually, which is coming out next month, and I'm saying this here so that it's going to put pressure on our graphic designer to get his work done, which he needs to do. We're going to do. We had a couple New Zealand photographers and writers. They drink this drink called Scrumpy, which is basically a kind of cider, but it looks sort of like red pop. Like it doesn't look real or good, but they do this thing called Scrumpy Split Flipper, and so they it's like Edward 40 hands with one hand and the other hand is split flipper tournament, and so they took pictures of it, and it's so good, it's so funny. But we'll get the New Zealand side, the little bit more rowdy side, in the print edition. So you can buy those, find them at nudgepinball.com. So otherwise, free articles there, sign up for our email list, blah blah blah. So,
yeah, awesome. And Rex coming in with another super chat. Love the chatting streams. Thanks for your time. Dude. Yeah, I love doing these. Somebody else in chat said, Ralph, apparently you and Ray Day need to do a split flipper game of Foo, and that's how you can, bridge the.
All right.
Yes.
It'll be great.
Okay.
Feel things.
Just heads up, besides Raymond being one of the lead coders at Stern, he's also like a top 5 pinball player in the world. So he's like really freaking good. He's
amazing.
Really, he could beat us all with one hand easily. Like that,
Yeah.
it's insane how good he is at pinball. But well, yeah, Ian, thanks so much for being on here. In Nudge Magazine is fantastic. And yeah, I'm Joel. I do the Triple Drain Pinball podcast. I'm hoping we'll record sometime soon, probably to talk about our experience here. And then obviously I do this. I do the Flipping Out Pinball stream every Wednesday night. And yeah, if you're watching this afterwards, leave a like, leave a comment, leave a thumbs up, all that fun stuff. No stream next week. No stream next week. I'm on a family vacation. It's family vacation. We'll be in North Carolina on the beach. So
Nice.
looking forward to that. So no, unfortunately no pinball, but I've already talked to Zach. I think the plan is we will be streaming something besides John Wick in 2 weeks. I don't know what game that is yet. So he'll probably be bringing something. Yeah, so we'll have to wait and see what that'll be, but it should be a fun time. So, hey, I appreciate the two of you guys. I appreciate chat. I appreciate everybody for being here. This was a fun time. And yeah, go play some pinball. Have a great night. And I will see everybody in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. All right. We will see you guys.